Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'd like to call the Wednesday, December 16th, 2020, City of Homestead City Council meeting to order. It is now 6 p.m. Please stand and join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Pursuant to the City of Homestead COVID-19 local state of emergency and executive order for hybrid and virtual public meetings dated November 20th, 2020, this will be a hybrid City Council meeting in accordance with authorized communications media technology protocols as provided on the city's website and the meeting agendas. This hybrid meeting allows for the public to participate live during the hybrid meeting by either calling in or through Cisco WebEx or physically appearing. Please note that due to COVID-19, there will be limited occupancy available in the council chambers. Face coverings must be worn by attendees at all times. In addition, the public will be subject to temperature checks and COVID screenings will be required. The hybrid meeting can also be viewed live on the City Access channel or City website at cityofhomestead.com. The City will be accepting public comments as part of the hybrid meeting, which can be emailed to publiccomments@cityofhomestead.com. Public comments are limited to 300 words per comment. Public comments on specific agenda items should include your name, address, the item you would like to comment on, and the comment. These may be submitted up until noon on Tuesday, December 15th, 2020, and will be reviewed as City Council as part of the record. General public comments should also include your name, address, and your comment, and can be submitted up to 30 minutes after the end of the hybrid City Council meeting and will be included in the minutes. Further details and instructions concerning public participation in the hybrid meeting are referenced in the City of Homestead Virtual Meetings Quick Start Guide located on the City website. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Bailey, Councilman Shelley, Councilman Fletcher, Councilwoman Avila, Councilman Ross, Vice Mayor Faircloth Stigers,
Here.
Mayor Losner.
Here. Thank you. Are there any additions, deletions, or deferrals tonight?
No, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Manager. All right, our first item tonight is item 4, the consent agenda, consisting of tabs numbers 1 through 6. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Moved by Councilwoman Avila, seconded by Councilman Roth. Are there any further questions or comments from council? None appearing. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next item, agenda item 5, public hearings, ordinance, land use items, etc. Mr. White.
Yes, Mayor, please be advised the following items on the agenda are quasi-judicial in nature. If you wish to comment upon any of these items, please indicate the item number you would like to address when the announcement regarding the quasi-judicial item is made. An opportunity for persons to speak on each item will be made available after the applicant and staff have made their presentations on each item. Swearing in, all testimony, including public testimony and evidence, will be made under oath or affirmation. Additionally, each person who gives testimony may be subject to cross-examination. If you do not wish to either be cross-examined or sworn, your testimony will be given its due weight. The general public will not be permitted to cross-examine witnesses, but the public may request the council to ask questions of staff or witnesses on their behalf. Full agenda packet on each item is hereby entered into the record. Persons representing organizations must present evidence of their authority to speak for the organization. Further details of the quasi-judicial procedures may be obtained from the clerk. In accordance with Code Section 2-591, any lobbyist must register before addressing the council on any of the following items. At this time, council members must disclose any ex parte communications concerning any items on the quasi-judicial agenda.
Thank you, Mr. White. Counsel, Mr. Shelley?
Yeah, just to disclose that I had conversations with the applicant on tabs 7 through 16.
Thank you. Councilman Roth?
Likewise.
Councilwoman Bailey?
Same for me.
Councilwoman Avila?
Likewise, thank you, Mayor.
Vice Mayor?
Yes, likewise, thank you.
And I will also echo the comments by all of my colleagues with respect to ex parte communications. All right, Mr. White, some guidance on the order and how we might take these items tonight?
Yes, Mayor. So all of the quasi-judicial items on the agenda this evening deal with the same proposed development, new subdivision, Maria Estates. There is one legislative item that we need to consider as well, and that can be done collectively with the quasi-judicial items. I could introduce the legislative matter, which is a comp plan amendment, which is second reading, followed by the two rezonings, then the variances, the site plan, and the T-plat. You can have a collective discussion, public hearing on those items, and then in the order, starting with 17, then tab 7, 8, down to 16, a separate vote on each one of those items in that order, if that's the will of the mayor and council.
Thank you. Any comments or issues from council as to the procedure as discussed by the attorney? All right.
All right, so I'll try to read through these quickly, just bear with me. So tab 17 is the second reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, amending the comprehensive future land use map designation requested by VFP Homestead LLC of an approximately 10.99 acre parcel of land from light commercial use to low residential use for property generally located on the northwest corner intersection of Southwest 328th Street and Southeast 18th Avenue as legally described in Exhibit A, authorizing transmittal, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Is Mr. Cordino, you're going to do something?
Do you want me to introduce all of them and then go
Yeah, let's
through
go ahead
each
and
one?
introduce all of them, then we'll come back.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Tab 7 is the second reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving the rezoning requested by VFP Homestead LLC from restricted retail commercial B1 zoning district to one-family R1 zoning district for an approximately 10.99 acre parcel of land generally located on the northeast corner intersection of 328th Street and Southeast 18th Avenue, as legally described in Exhibit A, providing for conflict, severability, and an effective date. Tab 8 is a second reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving the rezoning requested by VFP Homestead LLC from general use zoning district to residential R2 zoning district for an approximately 10.94 acre parcel of land generally located on the northwest corner intersection of Southwest 328th Street and Southeast 18th Avenue as legally described in Exhibit A, providing for conflict, severability, and providing for an effective date. Tab 9 is a resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting a variance request from Section 30-114 Regulations, subsection 1, building site area requirements of the City Code of Ordinances to permit the minimum building site area to be one lot or parcel of land, 4,000 square feet in area, for 94 of the 114 proposed dwelling units, where the minimum required building site area is 7,500 square feet for the development of a 114 dwelling unit single-family residential subdivision located on the northwest corner intersection of Southwest 328th Street and Southeast 18th Avenue as legally described in Exhibit A, and providing for an effective date. Tab 10 is a resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting a variance request from Section 30-114 Regulations, subsection 1, building site area requirements of the City Code of Ordinances to permit parcels or lots to have an average width of at least 48.20 feet, where the City Code requires parcels or lots to have an average width of at least 60 feet for the development of a 114 dwelling unit single-family residential subdivision located on the northwest corner section of 328th Street, Southeast 18th Avenue, as legally described in Exhibit A, and providing for an effective date. Tab 11 is a resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting a variance request from Section 30-114 Regulations, subsection 3, front yard requirements of the City Code of Ordinances to permit front yard depth to not be less than 20 feet measured from the front lot line, where the City Code provides that front yard depth shall not be less than 25 feet measured from the front lot line, for the development of a 114 dwelling unit single-family subdivision located on the northwest corner intersection of Southwest 328th Street and Southeast 18th Avenue as legally described in Exhibit A, providing for an effective date. Tab 12 is a resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting a variance request from Section 30-114 regulations, subsection 5, rear yard requirements of the City Code of Ordinances to permit every principal residential building to provide a rear yard of a minimum depth of 10 feet measured from the rear lot line, where the City Code provides for a minimum depth of 25 feet measured from the rear lot line. Again, for the development of a 114 dwelling single-family residential subdivision located at the northwest corner intersection of 328th Street and Southeast 18th Avenue as legally described in Exhibit A and providing for an effective date. And tab 13 is a resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting a variance request from Section 30-114 regulations, subsection 4, side yard requirements of the City Code of Ordinances to permit the width of each side yard to be not less than a minimum of 5 feet inches and corner setbacks to be a minimum of 10 feet, where the City Code provides that width of each side yard shall not be less than 10% of the average width of lot. Minimum 5 feet 0 inches for corner setbacks shall be a minimum of 15 feet for the development of 114 dwelling single-family units located on the northwest corner intersection of Southwest 328th Street and Southeast 18th Avenue as legally described in Exhibit A and providing for an effective date. And the last and final variance associated with this application is tab 14, which is a resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting a variance request from Section 30-114 regulations, subsection 12, maximum lot coverage of the City Code of Ordinances to permit total lot coverage by buildings, driveways, sidewalks, swimming pools, and other impervious surfaces not to exceed 65% of the lot area, where the City Code provides that a total lot coverage by buildings, driveways, sidewalks, swimming pools, and other impervious surfaces shall not exceed 55% of the lot area for the development of a 114 dwelling unit single-family residential subdivision located on the northwest corner intersection of Southwest 328th Street and Southeast 18th Avenue as legally described in Exhibit A and providing for an effective date. Tab 15 is a resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting site plan approval requested by VFP Homestead LLC for the development of a 114 dwelling unit single-family residential subdivision on an approximately 21.93 acre parcel of land generally located on the northwest corner intersection of Southwest 328th Street and Southeast 18th Avenue as legally described in Exhibit A and providing for an effective date. And the last and final application associated with this proposed subdivision is tab 16, which is a resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting tentative plat approval requested by VFP Homestead LLC for the development of a 114 dwelling unit single-family residential subdivision on an approximately 21.93 acre parcel of land generally located on the northwest corner intersection of Southwest 328th Street and Southeast 18th Avenue as legally described in Exhibit A and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Mr. White. Mr. Cordino.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to give you a summary of the entire application and then its components, and you can get into questions in detail if you'd like. So what we have are 11 different applications here. This is a developer that wants to come in and develop 114 single-family units on 2 parcels of land. So in order to do that, what they're doing is really just about everything that we do in the planning department. They need to change the future land use from light commercial, light residential. They need to take 2 rezonings, both of which are on second reading. And then they need to go through the site plan, 6 different variances, and a T-plat. What we're doing is recommending approval of the comp plan amendment and the 2 rezonings. Again, they're on second reading. We heard them last time. And then we're recommending denial of the T-plat site plan and the variances. The reason we're recommending denial is because there are 6 different variances. It just does not fit the vision of the code. And the variances range can be relatively significant. Again, we're looking at building area, going from, lot size, 7,500 square feet to 4 1,000 square feet. We're looking at lot width from 60 feet to 48 feet, a 20% decrease in lot width. We're looking at front yard setbacks, 25 feet to 20 feet, another 20% decrease. We're looking at rear yard setbacks from 25 feet to 10 feet, which is a 60% decrease. We're looking at side yards setbacks, 15 feet to 5 feet, a 66% decrease, and then lot coverage from 65% to 55% of a 15% decrease. So what we found is that while overall it's a relatively decent development, it simply doesn't fit the zoning code whatsoever with 6 different variants. It's one of the most we've ever had come through the department. Some of them are significant, and in total, it's just that we're recommending denial. So if there are any questions specifically, I can answer them on any of the applications.
Mr. White?
Mayor, I'm sorry. Before we proceed any further, I neglected to ask and provide for swearing in for any testimony. So if we could just digress for a moment, and I would ask that anyone who's wishing to speak this evening on this item to please raise your right hand to be sworn by the clerk.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. Please state your name.
Joe Cordino.
Here swear affirm that the information I present
Information I present
shall be the truth
shall be the truth,
and nothing but the truth.
nothing but the
So
truth.
help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you. You may be seated.
You're not going to make me repeat that, are you? Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. White, as the foundation for all of this, we need to first address tab 17 and then go back to 7 and work our way through?
Yes, correct. So tab 17 is so you're dealing with 2 parcels that are next to one another. One parcel is currently zoned medium-density residential, and they're seeking a rezoning. That property is zoned G, and they're seeking a rezoning consistent with the medium-density residential. The other parcel, they're seeking the future land use map amendment for, and that is tab 17, that they're seeking a change from commercial to low-density residential, and there's a corresponding rezoning consistent with that future land use category as well. So you're correct in that you need to first decide whether you think the future land use change is appropriate, and if you approve that, then you can approve the subsequent rezoning application or request consistent with that future land use application before you get into the variances, which need to be approved before the site plan and T-plat, because the site plan and T-plat are predicated upon the variances being approved. So if the variances are not approved, then by default, the site plan and T-plat can't be approved as presented this evening.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. White. All right, so dealing with tab 17, which is one of the underlying questions underlying most of the, or at least half of the rest of the application. We've had the staff report. Are there any initial questions from council? If not, someone here on behalf of the applicant to address tab 17. I know, Mr. Arza, you know the drill.
I do.
Welcome back in person.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. We have a presentation that's been submitted by the applicant, and IT is ready to play that.
I was going to say that. Ms. Lopez wasn't in the room, so I figured she was going to say that. But yes, Hugo Arza, 701 Brickell Avenue, representing FEP Homestead and D.R. Horton, the contract purchasers. We have a presentation. It obviously does not speak solely to tab 17. It speaks to the project as a whole, but I think it would probably be easiest to listen to the presentation. It's about 20 minutes long. They make us pre-record it, so we'll sit through that, and then I think we can obviously tackle any questions that we may have.
Very good. Let's go forward.
I'm going to sit for this so that.
Good evening. This is Hugo Arza with law offices at 701 Brickell Avenue, representing FEP Homestead LLC and contract purchaser D.R. Horton in the development of the Maria Estates project at the northwest corner of Southwest 162nd Avenue and 328th Street. This application should be familiar to all of you, as first reading occurred a couple of months ago, and this council recommended for approval the land use and zoning components. Today, you will have the second reading of those land use and zoning components, as well as consideration of the site plan, the tentative plat, and the variances. Before I get into this slide and the property that you're all very familiar with, I want to thank all of you for your time over the last several weeks, even before first reading, and certainly in the days leading up to this hearing tonight. Thank you for your time in meeting with me to go over this project. We continue to believe this is a very reasonable proposal for this project, and we hope to have your support here this evening. The application site, as you can see here, and I stated before, is on the northwest corner of 328th and 162nd Avenue. It's approximately 21.93 acres, and it's comprised of two parcels. The western parcel, which has an existing medium-density residential category, and the eastern parcel, which has an existing land use of light commercial use. The zoning classifications in place today, in the western half, there's simply G, general use, which means that there's been no rezoning yet of the property at any point, and the eastern half is restricted retail commercial, which was the rezoning that was done several years ago when the property was redesignated for light commercial use in anticipation of a commercial development that did not come to be. Here's a depiction of the comprehensive plan amendment, and again, council approved that first reading. What we are proposing to do here and hoping to have your approval today, final approval at second reading. This applies merely to the eastern half, so the pink rectangle that you see in your screen would go from light commercial use to low residential use. The purpose would be to permit the construction of detached single-family homes. So single-family homes, no duplexes, no townhomes, and we'll get into that a couple more times later in this project. And again, that redesignation back to the original category. Those of you that are on the council or certainly are familiar with the property will know that it wasn't always pink. This was at one point intended to be light commercial, low residential, and was changed to light commercial in the hopes of attracting good commercial use to this area, which the property owner was unable to do so for the last several years. And so we are just bringing it back to a category that it had enjoyed previously so that we may develop 114 homes on the property. This graphic depicts the rezoning applications, and again, this council recommended approval of both of these public hearing requests, 2018-81 and 82, which provide for the rezoning of the entirety of the property. The first one rezones the eastern portion from B1 to R1, and then the western half would be rezoned from G to R2. Ultimately, the rezoning of the entire property, as you'll see a little later in the tentative plat and site plan, will allow for the development of a single-family home community. I will take this opportunity now to explain, and it is our hope, and we enjoyed the opportunity to speak with some of the neighbors adjacent to us in the Tennessee Estates community. One of the concerns had been that the rezoning of the western half to R2 might introduce duplex or townhomes or some other multifamily type product. We explained to them, as I explained at first reading, that really this is mostly a legal technicality. Because the western half of this property enjoys medium density as a land use category, your land use regulations, your growth management plan do not allow us to rezone to R1. So R2 is the appropriate category to rezone to, and the protection obviously for the community, for this council, and for the neighbors is that because we now have a site plan and a tentative plat before you that shows a single family development, you can be assured that despite the fact the western half of this property may be R2, it will be developed in accordance with R1 single family home concepts. And again, we'll show that in more detail as we show you the site plan and the plat. We showed this slide early on in first reading, and I just wanted to highlight again, and although I think this council understands that sometimes putting commercial and right next to residential developments, to townhome developments, doesn't work. And while I've also taken out the pictures of the vacant storefronts, I think again, the broader point is one I'll reiterate. After the efforts that this property owner did to try and bring in desirable commercial uses, and being unable to do so, if we don't sort of take a big picture approach to this property and look at a project such as the one being proposed today, we run the risk of a project or a property such as the one on your screen now, with really vacant storefronts, underutilized commercial space, and I think we can all agree that that's not desirable for anyone. One more piece of evidence from first reading, again, just to remind all of you that you do enjoy a fair amount of commercial land within near proximity, within a mile of the property. Obviously to the west along 328th, on the other side of the turnpike, along US 1, on Campbell Drive. And again, the loss of this particular commercial land is more than made up for in other parts of your city. And so you can take this action this evening without adversely impacting the inventory of commercial land that you have. And so with all of that big picture discussion, which again we had at first reading, of the whys behind the land use and rezoning, and really ultimately it comes down to wanting to develop a single family home project on this site. I'm happy to be able to show you now the plat and the site plan, and get into some of the variances that we're requesting. This is an illustration at a difficult scale for anyone to see, but it's an illustration of the tentative plat. As all of you know, ultimately, if we are successful now with a tentative plat approval and a site plan approval at this stage, we'll also have to go to the county for tentative plat approval, and ultimately it will have to come back to this council for final plat. So you will see this a couple of different times, but really the highlights are that it provides for the development of 114 single family homes, and that's I think the most important salient point, and one which supports our position and our proposition of changing this land use and this zoning this evening in connection with this plat and the site plan. And here is the site plan. As you can see, and actually let me take a little time to walk everyone here this evening through some of the highlights of this site plan. Starting in no particular order, you will notice that the western perimeter and northern perimeter do have larger lot sizes. And if you can squint in, and I try to show this to most of you in either Zoom meetings or a couple of in-person meetings, you will see that the western and northern perimeters are substantially similar in size, lot size, to the homes in Tennessee Estates. So in essence, in order to provide for a transition buffer, we did in fact make our largest lots along the perimeter, so that those homes that back up against and are closest to Tennessee Estates will be substantially similar in size. I mean, it doesn't always match up square foot to square foot, but I think that generally speaking, we would be very close in size. The balance of the site admittedly would have smaller, but still single family home sites. As you can see sort of on the site here, closest to really 162nd and 328th Street. But I do also want to point out a few other things for you. You'll notice on the eastern side of the property, we have a cabana and pool area, recreation area for this community. This community will have an HOA in place that will obviously manage landscaping and other elements that are community-wide, but of course will also manage this cabana and pool area. They'll also manage, if you notice at our main entrance on 328th on the south side of the property, you'll notice that right at the end of that entrance there is a small park and trellis, a little pocket park. We also include another one just like that on the western side. You'll notice that over sort of on the western perimeter side. And so for a community of this size to enjoy three separate recreational areas that the future residents of this community can walk to, we think is really a testament to the desire to provide for a very livable and walkable community for the future residents of the city. And we think that this will fit in very, very nicely, obviously, with Tennessee Estates, our nearest neighbors, single family homes, and will fill in and will help fill a void of single family homes. And obviously we know this council's sentiment towards multifamily and townhomes. And we think that the opportunity to be able to transition this parcel from 10 acres with medium density, which might result in a townhome development, and 10 acres of commercial, which might result in, who knows what over time in terms of commercial uses, to a nice 114-unit single-family site plan such as the one before you is a very reasonable compromise, and one in which we've taken a lot of time to work with your staff to try and make it a project that we can all be proud of. As explained to most of you in different conversations, and as sort of alluded to at first reading, we do have some variances for the lots for these single-family homes. And I mean, ultimately, it's the compromise, as I've tried to explain throughout this process. Again, if we break from the premise that the western half is medium density, and that if instead of a project such as the one before you tonight, what the client was proposing, what the property owner was proposing was 10 acres of townhomes, you'd be looking at what I think the neighbors in Tennessee Estates and this council would find to be fairly incompatible and inconsistent to have townhomes next to the single-family homes of Tennessee Estates. So in turn, we can offer and can propose single-family homes, but we do need some variances to make the project work. I mean, unfortunately, a fair amount of the costs are fixed from day one, and the reality is that if we're going to build single-family homes, we need to be able to site enough of them to make the project viable. And so again, even though we've tried to work and created the buffering and the transition in the north and the west with the lot sizes, we do need to provide for sufficient homes in order to make this project viable. As a result of that, we are asking for a few variances. And I think what's important to note, and this was the main point that I made, and I have a slide a little later that will explain this in more detail, is that in no case is every single lot going to enjoy every single variance, right? The way that your city code works is that tonight we have to approve all of the variances that may possibly arise for any lot. And so you've got basically a couple of different elements that will occur if we are successful this evening and get approved. Ultimately, there'll be a sales center, and a family will come in and select a model that they want, and they'll select a lot on which they want to sell their home. And so, on which they want to build their home. And so depending on those two decisions that are to come in the future, then we might, and we obviously, our architects crunched the different numbers and compared all the models, we might, for any particular lot, have to enjoy one of the variances that will get approved this evening. That doesn't mean that that every lot's going to have all of the variances. Some lots may have one or two, some may have none. Some may have 3 or 4. We don't know at this time, but what we can say with certainty is that this is not a one-size-fits-all where every single lot will enjoy every single variance. This will provide for the flexibility that we need. So as you can see here in this slide and the next slide, we've got a lot size for the overall size of the lots. We've got the second bullet point is lot width, and which of course is complementary to lot size. If the lots are smaller, then the width is smaller. The third one is a front setback variance that some models may require on some lots. Onto this slide, you'll now see that we've got the rear setback again. The top variance on this sheet, on this slide, is a rear setback that some models may require on some lots. The fifth variance here is the corner side setbacks, which again some of the lots may require. And then finally, a maximum lot coverage for single family homes, which again is possible for some of the different models and lots. In support of these requests, we did sort of look around in this community, and you'll see here the Santa Barbara at Homestead property with single-family homes as small as 1,900 square foot lots. And mind you, we don't have any single-family lots smaller than 4,000 square feet. But we did want to show that this area and this community does have some substandard lot sizes in the area. Here are a few more at different subdivisions, really southeast, southwest, east, and southwest of the property. And again, you can see that there are lot sizes in these communities that are all smaller than the smallest one that we are proposing. further support of some of the variances, we do like to highlight and note that over time, the owners of this property have had to dedicate over 3 acres for expansion and roadway construction. We know that 328th is being widened as we speak. I drove it recently. It seems as if it's going to be done in the next couple of months, certainly well before this project will ever see folks moving into it. And so, again, while not a determinative factor, we do like to highlight where the property owner has already, over time, either this owner or predecessor owners made contributions to the city and to the county that benefit not just the project that might come in the future on this property, such as this one, but that are benefiting, obviously, the entirety of the community, such as the expansion of 328. And here's the variances lot fit analysis that we prepared. And what we wanted to do is show and highlight some of these variances. And I won't have us go through the entirety of these, line by line, or we could be here all day. But what I wanted to show is that basically for each of these different types of of variances, as you can see in the green, 0% required. In fact, for 4 out of these 5 variances, some of the models don't require the variance at all on any of the lots that they might be developed on. In the case of the side street, as you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, there are a few lots that would require the model. But as you can see in the percentage required, the percentage of lots that would require that are fairly small. In fact, really the main point here, and we can parse through the details, is that we've got 7 models that we're proposing in 114 different lots. And I won't endeavor to do the math, but you've got a lot of different potential combinations. And what you can see here is that in no instance or case are you going to have a circumstance in which the proposed models will require all of the variances for any of the lots. You also, I think this chart will help you understand that there are many instances in which none of the variances are required except for 1 or 2 models. So it's entirely possible, if those models end up not being very popular, that only a handful of lots might enjoy a particular variance. And so we can't forecast the future with 100% certainty, but in looking at these figures, I think we can say with some degree of comfort that once families come in, select the model they want, and select the lot that they want, we'll know exactly which of the variances need to be applied, but that in no case will this be a situation in which lots will end up enjoying all of the variances that we are proposing. We're asking for approval today of all of them because we can't come back later on a case-by-case basis to get them approved, but they will not apply to all of the lots. I'll run through these. I know this presentation is getting a little long, but unfortunately some of these are details we wanted you to see. Here is a single-family home model. Second single-family home model that we're proposing, and I did not show all of them this evening just to run through this, but as you can see, some of the architecture and style that will be proposed. Here's a 2-story model for all of you to see and consider. Same here, we have another 2-story model for you to see the type of architecture and the style. And finally, a last 2-story model for your consideration. This one, a 1-car garage versus a 2-car garage that you saw previously. I alluded earlier to the community outreach that we did. We had first heard at Planning and Zoning Board from a couple of the neighbors who spoke, and then as all of you heard at first reading, there were a couple of neighbors who spoke. Again, I think principally the confusion stemmed from the fact that the western portion of the property was being redesignated or rezoned to R2 and not R1, and I think we've explained to the neighbors and certainly to this council that that is mostly a technical legal reason. Again, the medium density not allowing R1, but that we are, of course, as you've seen here tonight, developing this project as a single-family home project. As recently as this past Saturday, we had a Zoom video presentation with Carlos Gonzalez, a neighbor and member of the Tennessee State's HOA, in which we were able to share our screen, show the site plan, show the lots, show the single-family homes, and address concerns and questions that they have. I think Mr. Gonzalez and perhaps some of his neighbors will speak here tonight. I think based on the conversations we had with them, we've addressed their concerns, which are that they don't want to see multifamily or duplexes or townhomes, and we have confirmed for them that we're doing a single-family home community. But obviously, we're happy to address or answer any further questions from them this evening. I think ultimately the community and what we're proposing here and this community will be very compatible with the existing community. In addition to compatibility, in addition to some of the other elements that we've shown, we are also proposing an offsite improvement. If you look carefully here, you'll see that we are proposing improvements at the intersection of 162nd and 312th Street. That's 16 blocks north of our property, so it is not adjacent to our property. However, in reviewing traffic with your staff, they determined that there were some impacts to this intersection, not all of which, of course, were created by our project. This intersection enjoys a healthy amount of traffic on a regular basis, but this project will enhance additional right turn lane capacity on northbound Southwest 162nd Avenue, and additional westbound left lane capacity to turn left onto 162nd from 312th Street, and that's delineated in both cases in the blue that you can see here. So as you can see, the capacity on 312th Street will be increased substantially, several car lengths, and northbound 162nd Avenue will be increased also by several car lengths. Again, these improvements will go in place during the construction of the project and would have to be in place prior to the development of the project. In addition to those improvements, we also have estimated impact fees, and I won't run you through all of these, but really the point is mostly just to show and give you evidence of what types of fees the city will collect, and nearly $2.5 million in fees. Obviously, road impact, police impact, park impact fees. This money will be at your discretion in the future to be able to address the impacts from this project. And all projects have to do this, but we do like to highlight it because we appreciate that with the obligation and responsibility of developing comes the payments and then the city's enjoyment of some of these impact fees. I want to thank you again all for your time. It's been particularly difficult during the pandemic to meet, certainly in person, but even by Zoom. I mean, we're all so busy with calls and video presentations. I want to thank you all for taking the time. I want to thank the Tennessee Estates HOA for their time and effort in understanding what we were proposing, and it's our hope that we've addressed their comments and concerns. As always, I want to thank staff for working with us. This application was filed quite a long time ago. There were a lot of issues and concerns that we wanted to work through, and so I think that as we always do with them, we work through these comments and questions and concerns with them, and we're able to be here before you today. Hopefully for final approval of this project, of the second reading of the land use and zoning, and of the approval of the tentative plat, site plan, and related variances. I'd love to reserve some time for any questions that you may have, and of course that the neighbors may have. And again, I thank you for your time this evening, and I look forward to your favorable vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arza. Okay, questions from council? Questions, comments from council on, I guess we'll cover these as a global,
Brickell Avenue. This presentation was recorded several days ago. I had to be submitted to the city several days ago. I had gotten a couple of questions and comments over time. One of them I realized that I did hit. There is an HOA that will maintain common landscaping, the cabana, the pool, those park areas. I had been asked a question about that. That HOA, I've been told the range is between $150 and $180 a month. It hasn't been established yet. Obviously, the budgets haven't been set or anything like that. I will also say that we'd been asked some questions about the size of the units. I know some of you had asked. The units range between 1,800 and 2,500 square feet. These are the homes themselves. So again, broader range category, but since some of you had asked these questions and it didn't make it into the presentation, I don't want anyone to feel that I ignored any of the questions. I think I did speak at some length regarding the variances, and I had gotten questions about, the lots, and do they have all of the variances? I think I've touched that issue for long enough. I'll be happy to answer any additional questions that you may all have. And then the one final point that I'll say is, I like to find reason to agree with Mr. Corradino anytime I can, and even though I only have a recommendation of approval this evening for the land use and the rezoning, I will tell you, if you're careful and hear what he said that the project wasn't compatible with the code. That's probably true. I mean, the code, didn't allow us the flexibility we needed. But we do believe it's compatible with the community. It's a single-family project. We have endeavored to make it more compatible by some of the lot sizes. Just get closer, or? Oh, okay, sorry. First, the audio on the presentation was really loud and jarring, and my voice was driving me crazy, and now I'm not speaking loud enough. This is not typical for me. But what I was saying is obviously the code requires us to jump through certain hoops and the like, and I appreciate that. But I don't think the project is incompatible with the community. I think a townhome project on 10 acres here would be far more incompatible. I think a single-family community such as this one, with recreational areas, with the buffering that we've provided, with the amenities, with the opportunity for new families to come into your city, I think those are the salient points, and those are compatible with this community. So while it may not be compatible with your code, and we can have a conversation maybe another day, so we're not here all night, about whether the code should have some other elements or categories to allow for smaller single-family lots, I think in this case it's compatible with the community. And so I'd like to leave you with that. Like I said, I agree with Mr. Corradino. The code hamstrings us, but the community is a good community and the project's a good project. So I'd love to answer your questions, and I just wanted to touch those points that I had been asked about that didn't make it into the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you again. I have a question down here to my right. Councilwoman?
Thank you, Mayor. I think our Development Services Department did a great job in highlighting all the areas where this project does not check the boxes with our code. But I'll tell you, I'd like to share with my colleagues the boxes that it does check for me. So for example, the medium density and commercial going to low density, I think that's a plus. The development of affordable and quality homes without a CDD, I think checks a box for me. Actual green space, I see green space in the renderings. This is something that neighborhoods in my district sorely need. So I'm liking that this is something in this district. So that checks a box. It's going to increase values. And healthy families makes for better health and wellness. So more house for families to grow in and more yard to play in. They can pick and choose their lot sizes. I think that variances are needed, especially in today's modern family where we're working and doing school at home. We may need that extra square footage and lesser maintenance on the yard for families going from a condo or a townhouse into a single family. So when it comes to evaluating the project as a whole, I think it's a win-win for our city and for our families. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other? Councilman Shelley.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I had on tab 8, because we're taking all these together, right? We're having all the full discussion now. So on tab 8, I think I raised this issue during the last hearing. I know I spoke to Mr. Arza during our presentation or when he was giving me the presentation the other day. So one of my concerns is going to the R2 zoning district, knowing that your goal is, and your client's goal is to ultimately build a project there. But we also know that, and I know I've approved a lot of projects over my time that for economic reasons, change in circumstances, whatever happens, don't actually get built. And so at that point, the site plan expires, the property sellers, they sell the property to somebody else, and ultimately, under the R2 zoning, they could build something other than single-family homes. And so one of my concerns last time, and my same concern this time, is figuring out some way to provide some sort of guarantee that only R1 type uses will be built, that only single-family homes would be built. I know we discussed last time about possibly, like other property owners have proffered up where they say, okay, we're going to rezone it on something, but we're going to limit it to lesser uses than what we could do by a matter of right. So it's something, again, that I'm concerned about, and so I didn't know if there'd been a solution discovered, if you'd speak with staff, if you've spoken to your client, if there's any type of options there that would help give some comfort knowing that no R2 uses would be built in the future, but only single-family homes.
discussed this when you and I, yeah, we discussed this when you and I spoke recently. Unfortunately, and your city attorney will tell you, you are not, as a body, as a board, allowed to condition rezonings. So you cannot impose additional restrictions typically, and I'll let Mr. White, sort of confirm that. It would make my life a lot easier because I'd be happy to do it, but unfortunately, I don't think your city will let you to do it. The way I see it, you have two protections, and I realize that, to your point, and I'll jump to your point. Yes, there's a site plan, but if it expires, someone has R2 and can come in later. And I said, to you then, and I'll share with your colleagues, right, and they'll have to come back through and hire someone to get a new site plan approved that will come back before this body, and that will, get the neighbors noticed once again. And so there is there's obviously a protection or a mechanism in place. The only other action that I think you could take tonight, but I would defer to your attorney on whether he allows it, would be that you could condition variances to only be utilized for single-family homes so that no one could try and avail themselves. I mean, that still runs for the 2 years, but you've added some additional protection. You can condition variances. You're not hamstrung in the same way. So I can't, unfortunately, proffer a covenant that says the R2 use shall only be single-family homes. If Mr. White believes we can, or he believes that there's a different, I'd be more than happy to be overruled this evening. I don't believe we can do that. But whether it's the protection of the site plan, or possibly if he weighs in and believes that this body can condition the variances so that at least there's just an extra hurdle, and that those variances can only be availed in single-family homes. No one can try and put something else in there or use the variances in another way. Unfortunately, those are the only ones I came up with. I mean, again, we're the law sort of restricts what we can do. I understand your concern, but again, we would have to come back, an owner would have to come back and go through this process. Again, the best I can do is kind of what I'm sharing with you. If Mr. White wants to weigh in, I don't know if there's anything I said. I hopefully didn't misspeak, but if he wants to confirm or add anything, I'll let him do that.
Perfect. I mean, Mr. White, if you have any contrary opinion, I'd be happy to hear it. But if not, I mean, it's still, I kind of voted for it the first go-around in hopes that we could find some way of addressing the problem by the second go-around. It doesn't seem like either the law provides for it or we've been able to creatively figure out a way to address that concern. So I don't know that I'll be supportive of it on the second reading. So I just want to at least ask the question so I understood where I was before I voted. That's all. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Shelley. Councilwoman Bailey? Councilman Roth? Pardon? Okay. All right. Vice Mayor, would you like to present any questions at this point?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just would like to weigh in a little bit. When I spoke to council for this application, I was very candid and transparent in that I don't feel that this application met the threshold as a hardship. I think that was far-reaching. Their rationale was far-reaching, I must say. But so to me, this boils down to single-family community versus multifamily duplex and townhome. And I think we can all agree that the council would perhaps prefer a single-family community over multifamily duplex or townhome. So that's the basis for my support for this project or these applications tonight, because of the single family over the multifamily. And I think the lot fit analysis that was presented tonight also brought clarity as it relates to the models and the variances that they may or may not enjoy. So I think that that was a great illustration to advise us of which models will enjoy the variances versus which are not. I like the fact that there's no CD, and it's just an HOA. I think that this product would be attainable for first-time home buyers, those who may be transitioning out of townhomes. And to quote Mr. Hugo Arza, I think this kind of crystallizes my position. It may not be compatible with code, but it's compatible with the community in that the Tennessee State residents, I don't know if they're here tonight, will be weighing in on it, but apparently those that they have reached out to are in support of it over townhomes. So I will be supporting this project tonight based on the aforementioned. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Maybe more than a couple of questions, Mr. Arza. one of the slides you demonstrated about, the potential for the percentages of variances. And it doesn't matter if we can't go back to it. I think what I calculated was that, or what I saw was that about 86% of the lots would need to avail themselves of the rear yard setback. I think that's what I saw. It was 83 or 86%. I don't know. Can we run that slide back? Anyway, and my point is, so what that says to me is that but for those homes that abut the perimeter of Tennessee Estates, virtually all of the other units are going to have very tight backyards.
Okay, so I don't think you saw that correctly. I mean, I'll be happy for them. It's slide 14.
Let's go back.
The rear setback, which is the bottom left-hand corner, I'll let them get up there, so I'm there.
Right.
So the rear variance is the bottom left corner there.
Bottom left corner.
So the aisle, Sapoli, and Robbie actually never need it at all. So those three models would fit on all of the lots without needing that setback at all. Maybe you saw the 82%, the Alex, so one model, if 94 people chose the same model, then they would, enjoy or require that. And then the Benito, Davenport, and Ellington, 73 of the lots for the Benito, 85 for the Davenport, and down to 27 for the Ellington. I don't think that adds up to 86%. I would venture to guess that's probably well below 50%, because 3 of the models don't require it at all. So maybe you saw something else, and
maybe what
I'm not the math person.
Yeah,
so.
me either, and I'll fess up to that in a heartbeat. But I do see that at least 4 out of the 7 models chosen are going to result in that very narrow backyard variance. And while in my mind it's a single family product, I think about the old school ground level townhouses and condos like are in parts of the villages, what used to be Rosemont and Naranja Lakes, that, we might call this a duck, but it's not. You're effectively creating a community of condo and townhouse type backyards. For me, there are only 2 things that make this compatible with the surrounding Tennessee estates, and I think this is one of the issues that I think Councilman Fletcher and perhaps Councilman Shelley and I all touched on last time, was being more compatible with the existing neighborhoods. And to your client's credit, you've come back with a site plan and a tentative plat that fairly matches the lots of this project that abut the existing Tennessee estates with comparable lots. But that's where, for me, that's where it ends. For me, a 40-foot lot, you can call the product what you will. It's still a condo type, still a townhouse type project with barely any room to get a vehicle if necessary, or even a small boat if allowed by the HOA into the backyard. For my taste, it just seems like we're trying to put too many lots and cram too much house onto the lot. And particularly when I look at the architecture, where the garage door is the predominant feature on the street. For me, it looks like we're driving down Warehouse Row, not single-family residential row. So from where I come from, in total in this package is, the look and feel and the actual setbacks, for me, are not a true single-family neighborhood. Now, I will temper those remarks by saying, yes, absolutely. This is a far better situation than duplexes or real townhouses or multifamily that could be constructed on the western side. For my taste, we're trying to insert too many units into this parcel of property. And on one of the other slides, and I know as a basis for your claimed hardship for these variances, you talk about land that has been granted easements or deeded out for rights-of-way, power lines, and so forth. The round numbers you talked about, I think 3¼ acres has been removed from the parcel over a period of years. Now, is that over the lifespan of this property, or was that done in the past or prospectively by the current owner in order to obtain this project?
28th and the widening of 328th. Because
The entire 3¼ acres we're talking about?
No.
Okay.
So if you look at that slide, a chunk of it, a 162nd is kind of wide there. So I can tell you with certainty that the current owner, because they owned it at the time and I was working with them at the time, did dedicate what you see on this slide for the additional 328. So what you see on the bottom.
328, okay.
On 328. On 162nd, I believe, all of that was dedicated predecessor overtime and the like.
So my point is they bought this condition and now claim a hardship when trying to put in what I feel are the maximum number of lots. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that as to whether or not they had done it all or whether they acquired it with some of the carve-outs already in place. You talked about, and I know a lot of times people come in here and they dangle the carrot in front of us about impact fees. Are those estimates impact fees that are paid in full to Homestead in the county, or is that solely the Homestead number?
And that's combined. That's combined, county and city. So
That's
obviously
combined.
you get the parks comes to you entirely, road is shared, and the like.
So there is some misleading information there that $2.4 million, whatever it was, is not coming to Homestead. And were those calculations done on every lot being filled with the largest square foot?
I think we do an average. When we run those
Okay.
numbers, we do an average. And like I said, I guess parks, police, if the slide comes up, I can run through them. I mean, there's a number that flow directly and exclusively to the city, and there are obviously the road impact fees. I believe it's just road, if I'm not mistaken, that you would share with the county. So I believe that's school, of course.
Right. And
Right.
either way, and I think some of us last time were concerned about the compatibility with the adjoining. And my last issue would be, and I would look to Mr. White for some guidance on this, is to where would it be appropriate if the applicant were to be agreeable that there be a prohibition against two-story homes being placed on the northern and western perimeter lots? Would that be something that would be agreeable to kind of preserve the compatible look between the two projects?
Yes, Mayor, you had asked me to inquire of my client, and I'm happy to report that they could, D.R. Horton can agree that the perimeter northern and western lots, I believe I counted it's 20, but we can just state it in a motion, if we're fortunate to get there for approval this evening, could include a condition that we can only cite the one-story homes on those 20
Sure.
lots. I've confirmed they have no objection to that, and we'd be happy to make that proffer.
Okay. Mr. White, where would that be appropriate? On the legislative item for the site plan or T-plat approval?
That would be appropriate, Mayor, as a condition to the site plan. We could make that a condition for the site plan. The way that the resolutions or the variances are granted, as a condition, they're subject to the plans, which are the site plan as it exists now. So if you place a condition on the site plan that limits the one-story structures or limits or prohibits two-story structures on the northern and western lots, we would add that as a condition, and it would follow through for the whole project.
Larger than the others, that they would probably not need any of these variances otherwise in actual
Right.
application. They
But,
would,
but as we discussed, and when you mentioned it to me, I agreed. I mean, perhaps because Tennessee Estates is predominantly single story, you know, again, it adds to the compatibility, and so we're happy to make that proffer if it's the council's wish.
I appreciate that. All right. Is there anything further from Mr. Councilman Shelley?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just want to kind of piggyback on some of your comments. You know, one of the things I did when I looked at this project is I have some concerns as well about just the aesthetics of it. I mean, it is single family, which I know I'm always asking for. I think the council's always asking for. But I think also to the mayor's point that it doesn't necessarily, although it's single family in actuality, it doesn't convey or feel like a single family home. I mean, you've got these very narrow side yards, which on these images look kind of wide, but then when you actually do the math, you know, you're talking 5 feet between the side of the house and the fence, you know, if there's a fence. You know, which you can't get a car down, as the mayor pointed out. You couldn't get a boat back in there. You couldn't. It becomes very unfunctional as far as yard space goes. And then you also you lose the front setback, you lose the back setback. You know, the houses themselves aren't, you know, unaesthetically pleasing, but they're also very basic. There's nothing to them that really. And so then the concern is you have a single family home, but then it's not as desirable maybe as other areas. So you end up with it running down sooner, it becomes less, you know, it just doesn't end up adding to the aesthetics of the community as a whole. And although I don't want townhomes, I have also seen some very nice townhome developments that ultimately I'd prefer to have lower density, but may actually provide a better product and maintain a better product for longer than a lower built single family home. So this is one where, you know, the totality of it, I'm not thrilled necessarily with the proposal, both from a packing in of the density of the houses or the close proximity of the houses. And so I do have some concerns as well. I think that maybe if it was redesigned and redone a little bit differently, it might work better, less variances, et cetera. But I have some of the same concerns that the mayor's raised. So,
Thank you.
but I do want to commend you guys, because I know it's a compromise issue here. So I do want to commend you and your client for trying to compromise and trying to find a way to, you know, meet all of the requirements that everybody has raised. I just don't know that we quite got there for me. So thank you.
No, I appreciate that, and like I said, I mean, I think that you know, when you look at it as a project as a whole, and again, I know, and both to the mayor and to your comments regarding a particular setback with a home or a side or a rear setback, you know, we are providing for 3 common area amenities. I mean, I think there's a lot of communities where you'd be hard pressed to walk. You know, I think if you put the site plan up, you would never have to walk more than a block and a half to find some green space. There are many communities in your city, so you could end up with slightly larger lots and then lose, you know, those common green areas. It's a balancing act, and I appreciate that maybe we didn't get all the way to where you need the project to be, but we took those things into consideration and thought that for the good of the community, maybe offering some common area space, some common green space, you know, was beneficial. It's a balancing act, you know. We'll know in hopefully just a few minutes, maybe not too much longer, whether we rolled the dice correctly. But I know we tried. We really have tried to find a way to make this very compatible, you know, with this area.
Thank you. And you know, let me be real clear to both the owner and the potential developer. I'm totally on board that this is not the place for any kind of commercial use. It's just not compatible or probably needed. You know, we'll go with single family every day over attached or some kind of multifamily. And again, I commend them for addressing the adjoining neighborhood issues, for drawing in those larger lots, for agreeing to the limitation on the 2-story. So, you know, I want to be real clear that, you know, I commend them in that regard. It's just, you know, psychologically, and I agree, we have a code issue, and I've probably had to say that at all 13 of my council meetings, and we've said it for a long time. And one day when we're not going from lawsuit to lawsuit and crisis to crisis, maybe we'll have some attorney's fees to spend on really fixing our code, and probably by then this place will be built out and it won't matter. But no, I agree. It's not compatible with, you know, a lot of what you're here for tonight is that you're not compatible with the code. Not necessarily, it's not necessarily desirable, and It goes a long way. So, in that regard, I appreciate the efforts that have been made to make this a more compatible than and desirable than it could have been. So if that's it from council, I want to open the public hearing. I'll say to the public, if you're logged on to your computer and would like to speak on this item, please click raise your hand option to be acknowledged. And when you're acknowledged, please provide your name and address for the record. If you're logged in by telephone and would like to speak regarding an agenda item, press *3 to raise your hand to be acknowledged, then obviously state your name and address for the record. So first, is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this matter? Come forward and obviously for the record, and you're on a 3-minute timer.
Hello, Mayor, Honorable Mayor Losner and Council. Dr. James Garrett McDonough. My address is 32320 Southwest 199th Avenue. Fun to be here tonight. Obviously, I probably don't have to tell anybody. Nobody cares about my opinion, but my opinion would be absolutely no to anything that reduces lot sizes, that could increase density, and anything to the such. With all respectful deference to Mr. Arza, he states that he had talked to some people in the community. I'm really willing to bet my life I speak to many more people in the community than him and his partners have, and not a single person in the community has ever told me that they want to increase density. Actually, I hear quite the opposite. A couple other things I wanted to get to. I'm not an attorney. However, I did go and look through the city's list of registered lobbyists. It was most recently updated on December the 7th, 2020. I see on all the slides that FPV Homestead LLC is who is the applicant here. And I'd just like to note that Mr. Arza is not registered as a lobbyist for FVP. I don't know what the legal consequences is that, or if his statements get stricken, or how that works. I could provide anybody with a copy of the lobbying list. I also did swear myself in, and I am happy to be cross-examined by anybody. No cross-examination? Okay, thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you, Mr. McDonough. For the record, the documentation we have in front of us, Mr. Arza is registered on behalf of the builder, D.R. Horton, Inc., for Marie Estates. So just to clarify that. I think you represented that at the beginning, that the applicant was both the current owner, FVP, as well as the ultimate developer. Is there anyone else in the audience? Yeah, come on down, please. Give us your name and address for the record.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. My name is Carlos Gonzalez. I live in Tennessee State. I'm going to be talking for my people in Tennessee State. I talked to the attorney the other day, and this is something that we don't like, and this is going to be affecting us. The product that they're bringing is not a single family. This is a multi-family. This got the same, when a realtor look into the property, they're going to be looking at R2, it's going to be a multi-family. It looks like a multi-family. They're not going to be looking. It's not compatible. One thing, Tennessee State is being zoned R1 residential. This is going to be R2 residential. This is not compatible. The size of the lot is very small. This is a condo property. This is not a single family, guys. You don't need to be in a high rise to say that you are in a single family, in a condo. There's a condo who are on land, like a house. This is not a single family. If they don't put this R1 and they don't increase the size of their properties, this is not a single family. And I'm speaking for everybody who's watching me. This is going to affect the prices in our properties. And this is not fair. There's another thing. Once this is zoned R2, they can go back and change it. very easy, because it's already sunny. It's already sunny. They made some changes. They make a little meeting. Hey, because of the circumstances, the economy, whatever, it's not feasible. We're not making money. We're gonna make it real multifamily. I mean, even though this is not a multifamily, this is not a single family. But they can change it very easy once it's sorted. When we approve it, it will be very easy for them to move on. If they want to bring a product to us, bring a real product, guys. Bring an R1 residential, same thing that we got, and we good. And everybody's going to be fine. There's not going to be any problem. No, just as the owner, Mr. Steven said, we don't see any family, single family here. This is like a condo with a little budget. This is like a townhouse. This is not a single family, guys. And we cannot be sold on this. They got to bring something real. Tennessee State got single family. We're going to bring the same thing. This is single family. They don't even look like we got. The roof is a shingle. They don't got the roof that we got. So it's, and on the other side, the people who are buying these properties, they're gonna be on disadvantage because their house, when they're gonna sell the house, they're not gonna sit on the MLS because the people who are looking for single family, they're not gonna show. So they're gonna be in disadvantage anyway. So the whole thing is not fair. Bring a single family. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak? Come on down.
So good? Okay. My name is Carl Fisher. I live at 412 Southeast 15th Avenue in Tennessee Estates. Most of the people that I've been in contact with, including Carlos and other people in the community, not all of them could make it here for a lot of the restrictions that are going with COVID-19 and so on. But we're all in agreement and understanding that if development is going to be built, that it should be built as a single-family home. The problem with the townhomes, it takes a lot of visibility away, packs a lot more people in a smaller area, and I know you know all this and you've heard it all, but I still want to voice our opinion on infrastructure. It needs to be changed. The streets aren't quite right. I know they're working on 162nd. The roads have actually been a mess, including the one on 8th Street Canal. But when you build these developments, it's like we're all trying to build on every piece of grass that we have in Homestead. And I feel like you're not going to have it happy until we're like the size of Hialeah. You know, Homestead's been a great community. I moved here in 2007, and we love it here. We have no intentions of moving. But if it gets bad enough, we may have to. So when you look at the impact on the community, keeping the homes alike to what's already in the community is very important. And how much room you know, those people that live in that community actually have. So maybe we build less homes, which I know builders usually aren't in line with that because the more homes, the more money. Build less homes, and maybe it fits the food plot there a little better, you know. So, and we're against commercial. I know it's been zoned commercial before, and I've watched them change that a few times. So in closing, it would be nice if we had a big pond over there for the runoff because the streets flood so damn bad in the communities that we live in right there. So that's never going to happen. So when you build more homes, it's going to increase what the water can go into the ground and what can occur from that. So I would like for all the council members to really keep all this in mind. And some of you are probably for building maybe other than single family homes, but I really think it would be nice if you supported the community that's right there. It has the largest impact on us, more so than anybody else, you know, close by, because it's right against those properties in that field. So with that in mind, I just want to close out and say, please consider that. Keep it maybe, I don't know, you can't change it to R1 because we talked about that, but you could set some restrictions somehow to get single family homes smaller size. All right? Thank you.
Thank you. And if you're going to be in the audience for a while, if someone from staff that can talk about some of their flooding issues, let's do that. And let's, I know we're out of the rainy season now, but let's get out there and take a look and see what's going on with respect to your flooding issues. Thank you. Is there anyone else in person here who would like to speak on this matter? Okay, do we have anyone online? We do, okay.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We have, first we have RAM, R-A-M.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is Romero Horta. My address is 2040 Southeast 19th Street, Homestead, Florida, 33035, Keysgate. I was just wanting to know, has anyone requested the traffic study on this project on how it would impact local traffic in addition to the current traffic that we currently have? Now, I don't know about you, and I don't know where this builder is from or his representative, but obviously he's not from Homestead, okay? I don't know who takes farm life to get on the expressway, because I don't know if all of you have forgotten, the jobs are in Miami. That's where we go. We go to Miami. Faircloth goes to Miami, I go to Miami, and Faircloth and I know that if you don't leave the area between 6 and 6:30, you're stuck in gridlock, okay? The traffic is really, really bad over here, okay? And none of you had asked for any traffic studies because it's bad, okay? Now, I think it was Councilwoman Avila that mentioned that it's going to increase property value for who? Okay, because I don't know if you forgot, but back in 2009, we had the subprime crisis where some of us in Keysgate, the villages, and local areas have bought at top dollar, and we're currently upside down. And I don't know about you, but I've been trying to take out a home equity line of credit for the past 7 years, and every bank tells me there's no value. Okay, so you guys need to actually hear the public, which some of them have already spoke, and to the individual who spoke up, or both of them, gracias people, you did the right thing, all right? Nobody wants this, okay? And I just wanted to say this, okay? We all know what's going on, all right? The builder wants to build more homes, make more money, okay? But I think it's time for you council members to start listening to us, because I don't know if some of you have forgotten, Bailey, Avila, it's election season. And Keysgate votes very heavily, especially during the primaries. So I ask yourself, reconsider in voting for this. Because I'll tell you, I know a lot more people than this builder does, and none of them want this additional traffic. Okay, because no one takes farm life to catch the expressway. We all take 152nd, which it's currently a 2-lane. And you want to add additional traffic to that? No, we can't. Okay, unless you guys start bringing quality jobs to Homestead, we'll go ahead and, back this. But currently, there's no jobs. We have to drive north, which means many of us have to wake up at 5:30 to head out. Consider that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Horta. We have another speaker online?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, that's it. Good, thank you. Mr. Arza, are there any comments you would like to address?
I'll be brief in rebuttal. I want to thank the speakers who spoke. I had a Zoom call with Mr. Gonzalez. I can tell you that the conversation I had with him on Saturday was not exactly the one that I heard today. I did hear some of the same concerns, and I think they speak to Councilman Shelley. I've looked at a lot of houses on MLS. When you search for single-family homes, these homes are going to pop up. I think we come back to the concern about these being single-family homes, but they're zoned R2. And that's a legal, issue, conundrum we've explained. It does not take away from the fact this is a single-family home community. About cramming more homes in, I did this exercise with some of you. If the western half is townhomes, 8 units to the acre, even if you dropped that to 60 or 65 or 70, even if you took a reduction so that you could put a project in there with no variances, a townhome project, you would get, let's call it 65 or 70 units on the western half, and then would have another 10 acres where even if you agreed to do single-family homes there, you'd probably get another, at 4 units to the acre, another 40. When you add up 65 or 70 plus 40, you end up at 105 to 110. We're proposing 114. This is not about cramming more units. Left independently, we might actually be able to spread out. And then this community, I think what you did hear loud and clear is they would be affected by the fact that they would have townhomes next to them. I think that's the salient point. So we're not cramming more units because if you break them apart, you actually probably end up with a very similar number of units. And we are building single-family homes. And I wish there was another way for me to say that other than to say it again, show it, get a site plan approved that has to be built. I wish there was something more concrete we can do, and I'm open to suggestions. But the fear, and with all due respect to Mr. Gonzalez, you know, of saying, well, it's zoned to R2 and they'll come in and do some changes. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. You know, the changes would be we put in a new site plan, we renotice, we come back here, and all of you see a duplex community or some other community. And I can tell you that I suspect if you approve something like this tonight and someone were to come try and do that, I mean, I wouldn't even bring it. I'd be afraid for my life. Obviously, if we're not fortunate and we're not approved, then I suspect there'll be a townhome community on half of this because that's what it's scheduled for. So again, appreciate the sentiment, and I certainly can appreciate the compatibility issues and the like. We've made the project as compatible as possible. One last point, we did submit a traffic study. Traffic study was reviewed. Your staff has independent review that looks at that. In fact, that's why, if you see one of the slides, we are making certain off-site improvements, 16 blocks, 12 blocks away from our property that are required as a result of the impacts, although by no means are we the only people impacting that intersection, but of course we are adding. So a traffic study was provided. Your staff's reviewed it, signed off on it, you have that. So again, I appreciate the sentiment. I wish I could address the R2, R1, other than to say there's a single family home site plan before you. And the total number of units of that site plan with pocket parks and the like is a nice project. Split apart, it ends up being a very similar number of units and very unlikely to be able to provide the same number of amenities because then you've got two product types and two different kinds of development. So again, I urge you and ask for your support this evening. I hope we can find this common ground and compromise and finish the year on a good note. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arza. Councilman Roth, I know you wanted to reserve some questions or comments until you had heard from the public, so if you're ready, you've got the floor.
I'm ready, thank you. There's a lot of things about this I like. There's some that I don't like so much, but I think what we heard up here today, Mr. Arza, a little bit about architecture as well. The gentleman who spoke, I think his name was Mr. Gonzalez. If we're going to try to make this community look the same as that community, he brought up a good point of the roof line structure being shingle versus being barrel tile or tile roofs over there. So I don't know if that's a consideration that they would make to continue the aesthetics into Tennessee Estates from this project in. And some of the architecture, I agreed that as driving down the street or looking at the ones you've shown us, it's very plain. So there was a couple nice ones. So maybe they could work on, some of that stuff too. I think, when you look at the project as a whole, to me, it's nice. It's got the open space. It's got two entries. I even drove through North Canal today to look, and they are putting in a cutout if you're heading westbound on or eastbound on Canal that looks like it's designed as a designated turn lane into this entrance, which if you follow me in the past, I look for things like that so that you don't have to travel up or down a road to make a U-turn to get back into your community. So that cutout, it looks like it's already planned and in place to be there. The density, it is what it is. It's either 65, 70 townhomes and 40 single-family homes, or they can build a community that looks similar to Tennessee Estates. The lots are going to be different. I happen to live in a house in the Villages that has a 4,000 square foot lot, and I'm thankful for that. I don't have to cut a lot of grass, Right. The setbacks that are in the community that I live in, they're livable to me. If I had a window on the east side of my home, I could reach out and literally touch my neighbor's home. So I think this is what a lot of people are looking for. If you're not looking to live within a community that has these types of setbacks and these things, then you're not looking in a community to buy in there. If you look at how Homestead developed over the last 15 years, you look at Waterstone, there's multiple floor plans, there's multiple community designs, and the last time I looked, every one of those houses has somebody living in it. You know, there's a house for everyone. There's a situation for everyone. And I think removing the commercial on this corner, taking away the townhouse component, which would be on the west side of the property, which would obstruct the views of the people that live in Tennessee states today, is, I think, the best option we're looking at today. All the zoning changes, the size variances and things like that will have to be addressed. But overall, when I look at this, I see a future community that's going to be citizens that are going to be participating in our community, contributing to our community, and they're going to have houses that are built in 2020, 2021, compared to what the Villages has back in the 80s, the Keysgate areas back in the 80s, where those houses were built in similar style, where you'll have 4,000 square foot lots adjacent to 10,000 square foot lots. That's just how it was set up in the Villages. So I'm for this. There's a lot of stuff that went into this, a lot of work by the staff. I get where they say it may not be compatible to our code, but if I remember what Mr. Cordino said, it looks like a good project. So code versus project versus what the community needs. The additional taxes that it'll generate from this corner, where right now I think it's all ag taxes at this point, is pretty beneficial. The fact that you are improving the roads on Campbell and 162 for what is, predetermined to be a bigger impact of traffic. I think the traffic patterns in the city right now are all screwed up anyways. People don't know which roads to go down. You may not want to go down Canal right now because of the conditions of the roads. So we don't know what the future plan is going to look like when it comes to which way people are going to be beginning to travel. If you're going out to the Turnpike, if I lived in that area, I'd be going east on Canal and then north on Kingman. So with that, I think I'm going to support this tonight, and I hope that everybody else gets on board and we just put this one in the books and move on to the next project. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Roth. Anything further? Councilwoman Bailey?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate everyone's comments. This is definitely not a black and white item before us. Thank you, staff, applicants, planning and zoning. I know that a lot has been put into this. And when I supported it at first reading, I was really excited about it changing from commercial to low density. I agree that a single family community is definitely preferred over multifamily or the commercial. And the fact that even though it doesn't fit the code, it might fit the surrounding areas, but my issue, Mr. Arza, I hear you saying that you're not cramming in more units, but I just can't see the variances fitting in with single family, with low density. And if our goal is to set the bar higher than we have been, then I can't support this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman, did you have further comment?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question, and maybe Joe can answer it for us. Is there any reason why we can't approve the site plan and then condition the CO to finalize as an R1 versus an R2? So issue a certificate of occupancy under R1.
I don't believe you can do that. I mean, it is an R2 zoning designation, and that's what it would have to be under, because it's eventually somebody, if it didn't develop or it sold, R2 allows you to build other things, and so I don't think you can artificially call it an R1 when it is an R2.
I haven't seen a CO in the city. I will admit, does the CO reference if it's a single-family home or not? Do we know?
Yeah, but the CO is totally separate from the zoning issue. The CO is controlled by the building official and deals with the building code in compliance with the building code. So as long as the as long as the building is consistent with the site plan and the plat that's approved, then we wouldn't be able to condition it on the zoning.
I guess, Mr. White, my question is, because I've never seen one, I'm just wondering if it says the zoning category, but then says the word single-family home. I mean, you've already given, to your point, it has to conform to the site plan, and the site plan has a single-family home on it. But does the document itself, and I don't know if the building official can speak to that, does the CO itself, when issued, I've never seen one, say zoning R2, but single-family home, or is it absent?
I can't speak to that, the building official.
Unfortunately, I can't either. I don't know if that would have answered Councilwoman, but obviously, the building official will not sign off on a permit for any of these platted lots for anything other than a single-family home, because that is all that's allowed to be built if this is the plan that's approved. So, I mean, again, we get back to, that's the comfort, that's the assurance that we can give. You've taken a vote, you would take a vote this evening, and you would know that if someone wants to build something other than this, they've got to come back to this council. Ultimately, that decision would come back to you. So hopefully that sways.
I just feel like we have multiple options around the city, and having owned a condominium, a townhome, and a single family, I know the differences between a condo and a townhouse and a single family. This site plan, it checks a lot of boxes for us. And for a lot of the families in Homestead that are looking for that next step on the ladder, on that ladder for wealth. And right now, we just have vacant land. We don't have families playing in the green space and contributing to the communities in the surrounding areas. So, as I mentioned, this is low density, it's attainable and comparable. It's going to increase the values around it because you're creating homes that have tile roof to be a superior home than to one that's being sold today at a high rate or in a high market. And you have the green spaces. So it's checking a lot of boxes, and it's putting something there that's way better than what's already there. So it just makes sense to me for us to support this tonight. But I don't understand why we can't retract the approval if something else is being submitted for building. Maybe, Mayor, could you help me understand why we can't approve it and then retract the approval?
Well, I think that our attorneys have addressed that, is that if we get to site plan approval, that kind of governs or directs that it be developed as a single-family product. That the underlying zoning may, by virtue of the hiccups in our code, be R2, but the actual use as governed by, and jump in here, James, if I'm misspeaking, governed by the approved site plan and ultimately final plat, that governs the product. Is that?
Three different ways, so I welcome your explanation. I think it's accurate.
Yeah, and I use this same example in a discussion with Mr. Arza, that some of these controversial zoning hearings out in the close-end Redlands, where there's a big gap in the county code between EUM, which is 15,000 square feet, and whatever, A1, a 1 acre lot, there's nothing in between. So if someone's not going to do a 1 acre lot, but it's going to be somewhere between 15,000 and 43,000 square feet, they've got to call it EUM. And I've been involved in these things where, and I think we're having the same argument here, our discussion here, is that, yes, the underlying zoning may be this worst case scenario, but the site plan and T-plat demonstrate something more than that lower grade zoning. So by analogy, I think that's what we've got here, is that the site plan and T-plat before us show a product other than what you would think of in the underlying R2.
So if this site plan is finalized and built out as single-family residences, it will show up as a single family, not as a duplex or multifamily.
And what the approval of the site plan and the T-plat and ultimately the final plat would govern that, yes. And I think the applicant's representative is correct that any change in that would require a return to council.
Thank you, Mayor.
Shelley, anything further?
Let me just jump in.
Councilman Roth?
Thank you. Yeah, so these would all be lot and block and platted individually lots. So no matter if it gets built out, when it does get built out, if marketed, and these are single-family lots, they're single-family homes, and they'd be posted on the MLS as a single-family home. That's how it would be come up. I mean, there's many communities that don't have that opportunity. Townhouses, condos, heck, you don't even own your land in a condo. And as Councilman Shelley said earlier, we've approved projects like this in the past, but they never came to be. But they ended up with that zoning on them, and I don't have a fear in that. This is not a small-time developer. This is D.R. Horton, and once this gets done, they close, and boom, they start to do their thing. So I don't think there's a risk in them not doing it under the, and having the R2 exposed out there for the future where they could do something different with it. So if it was anybody else, I might be a little concerned, but the way the developers are coming into our city now between Lennar, D.R. Horton, and I think, to piggyback on some of the other comments, as families are growing in our city that need to get out of a condo situation or a townhouse situation, the majority of those that were built in 2004, 5, and 6 have CDDs attached to them, making it easier for them to leave that situation and come into a community like this that doesn't have the additional taxes on top of it. So as I sit here and listen to the comments, it's never going to be a perfect world for anybody. And the compromise is you don't have townhouses, two-storied, built on the west side of the property that obstruct the view of the people that already live in Tennessee estates. The mayor asked, and you accommodated him with saying no two-story homes on the northern end or the western end. I mean, there's a huge compromise. I'd love to find out if we can get a different style roof on there to help Mr. Gonzalez with compatibility and aesthetics that would continue into their community. But I thought about the R2 situation. If it was anybody else, I think I'd be fearful of it. But this is a national builder. This is not somebody that's going to walk away from this and turn it over to somebody else, I don't believe. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I don't think that's going to happen here. So.
I'm struck, and I was reminded that a big portion of your city is actually zoned PUD. So by the logic we've heard this evening that people somehow look at the zoning, I mean, if you look at all of Keysgate, if for some reason, rather than looking at the product type, whether it's a single family or a townhome in the MLS, if you for some reason decided you wanted to search by a zoning category, nothing in Keysgate would pop up because it's all PUD. Like you wouldn't be able to find R1 or R2 or anything else. I don't think, I mean, I suspect every one of you's looked or shopped for a home at some point in your lives. I don't think anyone searches by the zoning category. It's a much more archaic system. Again, I mean, I think the protections that are in place, and then I remind you all the final plat comes back before you. By the time that the final plat comes before you, you will see homes out there because typically, I mean, not typically, always, you're going to have the building permits pulled after the tentative plat and get built, and then the final plat is recorded, approved by this council, and recorded ultimately in order to issue the COs to the new residents. I can promise you, if you got, when that final plat comes, you know, all of you are going to be able to drive down that street and see whether single-family homes were built or not. I mean, and you know, and of course the answer is yes, that's all that could have been built, and you will see that and have yet another assurance and another opportunity to vet what we're telling you here this evening, probably in 8, 10, 12 months, whenever we can, you know, finish the first set of homes and be ready to deliver them. So I think there's a lot of protection. I appreciate the comments. You know, I'm hopeful that the totality carries the day when we look at this as a project, and that, like I said, we can end the year on a high note. Thank you.
That's all. Thank you, Mayor.
Is that it? Something else? Mr. White, let me pose this question. Let's say we approve the comp plan change, and we rezone from the commercial to
R1 on the east, R2 on the west.
To R1, and we rezone the G to R2, which is one of those little code glitches that doesn't allow us to do R1. And then we come to the variances, and if the variances fail, is it correct to say that there's a 10-acre more or less parcel hanging out there that's nakedly zoned R2, and someone could come back with a multifamily or a attached type product?
Yeah, so I'll back up for just a moment. So the R2 property has a future land use designation of medium density residential. So that is sort of the constitution that governs the higher density on that parcel. And the applicant's entitled to a zoning district that's consistent with that future land use category. And there are a couple of different categories, R2 probably being the least intrusive out of all of those categories. So assuming those get approved, and then you get to the variances, and the variances fail, and by default, because the variances fail, the site plan has to be denied because the site plan is premised upon some of those variances, at least with respect to the minimum lot sizes, right? And the plat as well. So at some point in the future, someone could come in and develop the medium density residential parcel under R2 zoning as a duplex townhouse type of development.
Coming at it from a different angle, without the variances, we're not going to get the single family product.
Correct.
On the entire project.
That's correct. And that's the site plan, and the site plan carries all the variances, and we kind of come back full circle. Correct.
Okay. Thank you all. Vice Mayor, anything to add while we're here?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to reiterate, not a fan of the project at all, but if there has to be something built there, I prefer single-family homes over townhomes. I know there was a concern about, although it's single-family, it still may look townhome-ish, but if you look in some communities within Homestead, particularly in Waterstone, they're small lots, narrow roads, very small backyards. So I don't think this particular community here is an outlier, but we have some of that throughout the city as well. So the only reason I'm supporting this, and I do mean only, is because I prefer single family over multifamily, townhome, or duplex. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. All right, anything further from council? All right, so on Mr. White's advice, we are going to take tab 17 first, which is the requesting the large-scale comprehensive plan amendment from LCU to LRU. Do we have a Motion to approve the item, the land use designation change in tab 17. Moved by Councilman Roth, second by Councilwoman Avila. Is there anything further from council? Let's have a roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Roth? Councilwoman Avila? Councilwoman Bailey? Councilman Shelley?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fairclough Staggers?
Yes.
Mayor Losner?
Yes.
The motion carries.
All right, thank you. Which tab next, Mr. White?
Let's go back up to tab 7, which is the second reading of the rezoning from B1 district to R1. That would be the zoning that's consistent with the future land use designation that you just approved for low-density residential.
Thank you. Do we have a motion for approval on the rezoning under tab 7? Moved by Councilman Roth, second by Councilwoman Avila. Do we have any further discussion on this item? All right, roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Roth? Councilman Shelley?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bailey? Councilwoman Avila? Vice Mayor Fairclough Staggers? Vice Mayor?
Sorry, I said yes.
Mayor Losner?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Would tab 8 be next?
Yes, Mayor. Tab 8 is next. It's the second reading of the rezoning from the general district, G district, to R2. And this would be the zoning that would be compatible and consistent with the medium density residential future land use category.
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion for approval on tab 8? Councilwoman Avila, second by Councilman Roth. Any further? Roll call vote.
Councilman Shelley?
No.
Councilwoman Bailey? Councilman Roth? Councilwoman Avila? Vice Mayor Fairclough Staggers?
Yes.
Mayor Losner?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Next item is tab 9. Correct, Mr. White?
Correct, Mayor.
This would be the variance on the building site area requirements for lot sizes of less than 7,500 square feet. Do we have a motion for approval? Councilwoman Avila, second by Councilman Roth. Roll call vote.
Councilwoman Avila? Councilman Shelley?
No.
Councilman Roth? Councilwoman Bailey? Vice Mayor Fairclough Staggers?
Yes.
Mayor Losner?
No.
Motion fails.
Mr. White, does that effectively stop the process?
Well, it does, because the variance with regards to the minimum lot sizes has not been granted. So as proposed, the site plan and the corresponding tentative plat includes lots which are less than the minimum 7,500 square feet. So right now, by default, the site plan and T-plat, you can't approve because it's not consistent with this variance. I mean, we could go through the rest of the variances if you, Mr. Arza, would like, but I don't think it's necessary.
I have no desire to prolong it, so
Right.
I agree.
So then would the procedure, Mr. White, be to, how would we dispense with these remaining items?
So I think that we could, For the record, I think that we should probably just go through, memorialize them, and then I just think for the record, we could just indicate, I don't think we even have to get to, we could just memorialize that the site plan and the T-plat, as presented, cannot be approved, because it's predicated upon the variance which was denied. I don't think you have to go through and do a separate vote for those items.
We do not or do?
I don't think we do.
For, well, it would be what, 9 through 15 leading up to site plan and T-plat?
Yes.
But you do want us to have an affirmative vote one way or the other on the site plan and T-plat?
Give us one moment.
Sure.
Yeah, so Mayor, I think that it's, I think we can go through the rest of the variances because I think that's important to give some direction to the applicant. But certainly, we don't need to, and we can't get to the site plan and to the T-plat because it's not properly before you to even vote on at this juncture. I'm sorry?
Those are legislative versus the quasi, is that correct?
These are all, we've already handled the one legislative matter, which was
Right.
the future land use.
Okay.
So the rest of these items are all quasi-judicial.
And we need to go through.
And so we'll go through the variances, but with respect to the site plan and the T-plat, we won't need to address those items because they're not properly before you to be voted upon.
All right. So we left off with, did we vote on tab 9 or was that
Yeah,
next?
let's just go through tab, we've already handled tab 9.
All right,
So
so
let's
that-
do tab 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14.
All right, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, Councilman Roth.
Did we already approve the R2 zoning on this property?
Yes, we did.
Yes.
Okay, so that's what everybody was worried about, right? This property now has R2 zoning. Right?
Yes,
So
and
what-
Mr., sorry, go ahead.
What I'd like to see is, now that we have a pulse for what's going on, let's give them an opportunity before we kill everything tonight, and maybe defer this, let them rethink their strategy, and come back. Because now this property has R2. We can't reverse that, can we? So what we did was we gave the R2 kind of prematurely. Is that right?
Well, again, you can, I mean,
They have
someone
it
could
now.
make someone, I mean, there could be a motion for reconsideration, but no matter what, it has a future land use classification as medium-density residential. You cannot keep it in a G zoning category. They're entitled to a zoning on the property that's consistent with the medium-density residential. So you have to assign some zoning category to the property so that the applicant can develop the property in some manner.
But it had a commercial zoning on it prior to the R2.
No, that's
No,
the eastern
different-
portion.
Different side.
Eastern
The other
portion,
side.
Yeah.
West side had the
They-
underlying medium density. The east side had the commercial.
Right, so now the entire property, though, is it now R2?
No.
R1, you already approved 6-0 to rezone the eastern half to R1.
Right.
And you approved 4-2 to rezone the western portion to R2.
To R2.
Right, yes, half the property, not all of it. I will point out, I mean, the vote tied, right? So the motion failed. I don't think the council has, I mean, we have 6 members. It was a 3-3, so the motion failed. I think somebody still has to make a motion, right? I mean, we can't, does your code require?
Well, 3-3 is.
Failed in a tie.
Fails, it's denied,
3-3,
yeah.
That's the, I learn something new every day.
Right.
In most places, that requires a second
So-
motion. So,
Which side of the vote has standing to move for reconsideration, starting with tab 9? Because otherwise, we're hanging out there with naked R2.
Issue are we trying to get a motion for reconsideration on? Because that's going to
All right, we
dictate who can do
approved-
what.
Approved 7. We approved 8, correct?
Correct.
Changing to R2.
Which Councilman Roth raised.
9 failed for minimum lot size, and that's where we've stopped.
Yes.
It failed by virtue of a tie.
Failed, yes. So is the question, who is the prevailing side on tab 9?
Yes, that was my question.
The no vote.
The no votes on 9.
The no votes on 9 because the motion failed. So if
Okay.
one of the 3 no votes cares to make a motion for reconsideration on 9, then they're free to do that.
All right. Well, then,
I think
let's
that's-
step
Or
back
was it
again,
8?
because based upon what I've heard tonight
Well, Larry
from
asked
other
about
council
8. The mayor
members,
asked about 9.
and in the absence of Mr. Fletcher, going forward, I sense that the variances would fail anyway, based on conversations that would fail in a 3-3 tie. So then, in order to avoid, and I don't see that changing unless there's potentially a deferral. So if our concern is that an R2 not be hanging out there right now, and I understand R2 is probably the least egregious of the designations within a medium use category. So I guess I need some input. So the R2 passed by a vote of
4-2, I believe.
4-2.
4-2.
4-2.
So to reconsider that, to not have that hanging out there right now, someone on the prevailing 4 would need to move to reconsider.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, that designation leaves us at risk for multifamily,
So
for something other than single
So
family.
if I may, I concur with you that it seems like the variances would all end up 3-3. Your vote, the 3 no votes on this one, would indicate that, we would have to do some sort of redesign or do something. I'd like the opportunity to discuss with my client. This forum doesn't lend itself. I'm trying to text with people who are, not here physically and present, although I do have a representative from DR, but.
Difficult, if not impossible.
Right, so.
Are you going to ask for a deferral?
I would ask for a deferral on the rest of the items. I think you properly, but by asking for a deferral, I'm being, forthright here, rather than just saying, vote us all down. It's still properly before you, and we are not just enjoying R2, which I think we've all bludgeoned to death, know that means we can build duplexes or, so to the neighbors, despite the fact that, again, and I have to say it because the Cuban in me comes out, I did not hear sort of the vehement opposition I heard today when they spoke to me one-on-one. I think what I'm asking you, if you defer this, is quite a generous Christmas gift to the neighbors, because I'm saying give us a chance to see if there's something we can do, rather than turn us down so that I have R2 and my client can go design a duplex project, which maybe some other attorney might do. I'm feeling generous in the spirit. Maybe we can come back in January with some other concessions, and if at that time we can't, then we can take up. I don't think there's any obligation for you to hear all the items tonight. You can just stop right there.
I would agree, and I'd ask the council if it's a will to move to defer the remaining items. Yes.
Excuse me, we're just discussing the mechanics. Because we've already approved some things and made some decisions. I just want to be clear on what it is that we're trying to unwind and defer. Okay, so we have a motion that failed on tab 9. If we want to defer everything, if I could request a motion for reconsideration from somebody on the no side of that vote, and if the motion for reconsideration to approve tab 9 is approved, we can then move to defer all of the variances and the site plan and the T-plat going forward. Right now, what we have is a failed vote on that, and we have a determination. So if we want to defer it, we have to unwind that, which we can do through a motion for reconsideration from somebody who voted no to tab 9. I want to be clear, that would leave tabs 7 and 8 as approved for this evening. So everything else would be deferred. If we want to unwind those, then we're going to have to go through those steps as well.
There.
So I'm looking for a little clarification on exactly what it is that we're trying to defer, so I make sure that we take the proper steps.
It seems that to address, I think, some of the real concerns here, we're going to need to reconsider the R2 and then defer everything from the R2 item. We're going to have to reconsider R2, reconsider the variance of the overall lot size, and then defer all of the tabs from the R2 designation
eight through.
Okay.
through the end. Is that correct?
If that's your will, and that's why I'm asking for the clarification. So I would be remiss if we didn't just address, with respect to tab 8 and the R2, and I think James and Joe have spoken to this already, they're going to be entitled to a zoning designation, and the R2 is at the low end of
that's the only point I would make with all due
what they're
respect is-
entitled to. So you can do that if you want. As we do, I want you to be aware they are going to be entitled to a zoning designation, and that is on the low end of what they can ask for.
In the spirit of compromise and generosity, I mean, that property's going to get R2 today, January, February, March. It's the lowest category, and I think you're hearing. So I would respectfully say, yes, I mean, because there's still a project pending, it's not like we can rush in and pull building permits for an R2. We can't do anything. I would respectfully ask that you just undo tab 9, reopen it, and just leave 7 and 8 in place, and then we still have a valid site plan. We'll bring it all before you, and if we can't reach an agreement, I mean, the R2 is the lowest category that property would. I mean, next month or the next month after that, I would say, okay, approve R2, deny everything else, and we'll come back with duplexes. But I hope never to get there, but either way, we're going to be at R2 today, January. There is no lower category. So I know I can't concede anything there. On the variances, obviously, maybe we can. So I would just respectfully ask if we can just undo only starting with 9, which of course is a failed vote, and defer through the balance of the agenda this evening, and we'll come back before you and live to fight another day.
Mayor?
Councilman Sciallo.
Yeah, just to weigh on this one a little bit. I mean, I prefer the idea of reconsidering tab 8 as well, deferring the whole thing from tab 8-9, because I think it keeps it as a package. I think ultimately, there is a matter of right as far as rezoning, from G to some sort of zoning category. But at the same time, until we actually give that, we have some additional bargaining power as we're going through this process to try to make sure that we maintain single family and a quality single family product that we can all agree to. Ultimately, if we all decided to vote against tab 8, they may have some legal rights to pursue, and they may pursue those legal rights, but it's going to cost them money to get there, versus trying to sit down with us at the table, compromise, and ultimately find a product that they can get built faster, versus going through whatever process might run through. So for me, I think I would prefer to go ahead and reconsider all the way back to tab 8, and then reset the deck, and let's hopefully get a compromise that we can win, we win, they win, and everybody gets what we need. So that would be my preference, Mayor.
I agree with you, Councilman. All right, so if we are going to do that, in order to reconsider tab 8, one of the 4 in the majority approving it would need to move to reconsider, correct?
Correct.
All right. So, and I was one of those, right? Madam Clerk?
Madam Clerk.
All right, Councilman Roth has made the motion to reconsider tab 8, the item regarding the rezoning from G to R2.
Okay.
Do we have a second? I will second that. All right, do we have any further discussion on that? All right, so let's have a roll call vote on the motion to reconsider tab 8, the rezoning from G to R2. And the effect of a yes vote would be to unwind that approval back to a G designation.
Correct. We'd be unwinding the approval, and then we would take a subsequent vote to defer the item for consideration in the future. Whether a date certain next month. Well, I'll ask you to take it at 8 and 9 when we're redoing it, and then we'll do a motion to defer everything else going forward,
Okay.
just to deal with those individually, because that's how we've already taken the vote to unwind them.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to reconsider tab 8, the rezoning. So let's have a roll call vote. And again, a yes vote is to unwind the earlier approval.
Councilman Roth? Yes. Councilwoman Bailey? Councilwoman Avila? Councilman Shelley? Vice Mayor Fairclough Stigers?
Yes.
Mayor Losner?
Yes.
The motion carries.
All right, the next item would be is do I have a motion to reconsider?
I'm sorry, Mayor, I'm sorry, before we move forward with the motion to reconsider on 9, if I could have a motion to defer 8. I want to take the ones that we have dealt with and push them forward.
Tab 8. Moved by Councilman Roth, seconded by Councilwoman Avila. Any further? All right, let's see. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, so we have deferred tab 8. Now, we need a motion to reconsider the denial of tab 9, which deals with lot size. And those voting no previously on this are those who are eligible to make the motion.
Correct.
Councilman Shelley, would you like to move by Councilman Shelley, seconded by Councilwoman Bailey? Is there anything further from council? All in favor? Aye. None opposed. All right, so now we need a motion to defer tab 9. No, because we already dealt with 9. All right, so that's why we have. Okay, so we have a motion from Councilman Roth to defer tab 9. Second by Councilwoman Avila. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Now, I believe, and for the record, do we have a request from the applicant to defer tabs 10 through
16.
16 or 17?
16, you already
16,
approved
we
7.
took 17.
That's right, 10 through 16. We have a motion to defer. Moved by Councilman Ross, seconded by, I think I heard Councilwoman Bailey. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Mr. Arza. Been a long night already.
It has, it has. I hope Santa's nicer to me next week. I'm gonna
Thank you.
see what I get.
Can you imagine if we were all sitting at home or upstairs trying to work through that? Okay, so we're on to tab
18, Mayor.
18.
Yes, 18 is the second reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, amending Chapter 6, Building and Building Regulations, Article 7, Flood Damage Prevention, by repealing Article 7, Flood Damage Prevention, and replacing with regulations that comply with the participating criteria of the National Flood Insurance Program and floodplain management related requirements of the state of Florida, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date. Second and final reading.
Thank you, Mr. White. Madam Manager, is that yours?
No, sir, it's the planning and zoning. We're recommending approval of this. It's on second reading, every now and then, it's necessary to amend the Code of Ordinances, particularly when it comes to the city's floodplain management ordinance, to include the standards that FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, has asked us to include. And that's what we did here. And there's a slew of, you'll see in the package there are a strike through and underline, several pages of inclusions that they put in here. So we're recommending approval, and they are coming from the federal government.
Thank you, Mr. Corradino. Any questions or comments from council? None? Do we have a motion to approve?
Any, Mayor, comments from the
Yes.
public? I'm sorry?
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
We open it for the public. Anyone?
Public or online who would like to speak on this matter? No one online? All right, very good. Thank you. We'll close the public hearing. All right, who made the motion? Councilwoman Bailey moved approval, and Councilman Roth was the second. Excuse me. Anything further from council? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Tab 19.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, tab 19 is also an ordinance for second reading. It's an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, amending the budgets for each of the several funds and departments of the city for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2019 and ending September 30th, 2020 by increasing the total budgeted revenues and expenditures by $8,087,619, providing for repealer, severability, and an effective date.
Thank you. And this is second reading, correct?
Yes, correct.
All right. Thank you. Is there anyone in person or online from the public wishing to speak on this matter? Any questions or comments from council? Nope. We have a motion for approval on second reading. Moved by Councilman Roth. Second by Councilwoman Avila. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Tab 20. Who has that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, tab 20 is also an ordinance for second reading. It's an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, amending the budgets for each of the several funds and departments of the city for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2020 and ending September 30th, 2021 by increasing the total budgeted revenues and expenditures by $7,770,297, providing for repealer, severability, and an effective date.
Thank you. Is there anyone here in person or online wishing to speak on this matter? None. All right. We have a motion for approval on second reading of this item. Councilwoman Bailey has moved it. Councilwoman Avila has seconded it. Anything further? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Next is tab 21.
Mr. Mayor, tab 21 is an ordinance for first reading. It's an ordinance amending the code of the City of Homestead, amending sections 22.5472A1 and 2 of the Police Officers Retirement Plan to increase the maximum equity and international security exposure pursuant to Chapter 185 Florida statutes, amending section 22.5-61 of the plan to eliminate the purchase of city service consistent with Chapter 185 Florida statutes, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council on this item? Is there anyone here in person or online wishing to speak on this matter? None appearing. Do we have a motion for approval of this item under tab 21? Moved by Councilman Avila, seconded by Councilman Roth. Anything further? All in favor? All right. Thank you. Okay, next item, tab 22. This is car number 3070, temporary staffing. Is that you,
That would be
Madam
me,
Mayor?
Mayor. That would be me. Thank you. On October 2nd, 2020, Procurement and Contract Services Division issued ITB 202101, temporary staffing and lifeguard services for citywide temporary staffing services. Notices were sent to over 260 vendors and 14 responses were received. These temporary services include professional services, skilled trades, risk analyst, and lifeguard services. The risk and the lifeguard portions of this will go out again because we did not get appropriate responses. So staff recommends that mayor and council authorize the city manager to award ITB 202101, temporary staffing and lifeguard services, Group 1, Category A, professional, and Group 2, Category B, skilled trades, to the 3 lowest responsive bidders, which include 4 Best Business Corp., Best Candidates LLC, doing business as Creative Staffing, and 22nd Century Technology, Inc., on an as-needed basis and within the established department budgets and to meet the needs of the city. The initial term of this contract shall be from the issuance of the notice of award through September 30th, 2023, with 2 additional 1-year extensions upon the same terms and conditions and the mutual written consent of both parties.
Thank you. Any initial questions or comments from council? Is there anyone here from the public, either in person or online, wishing to speak on this matter? None appearing. I just want to say that during the pandemic, one of the top 3 emails I've gotten are from residents having concerns about either the tone, the demeanor of customer service, or the inability to reach customer service. And I hope that we can address this.
That's really the next one. That's really our next item for the call center.
So ditto on the next one. All right.
Okay, understood.
Been a long night already. This has been moved by Councilman Roth, seconded by Councilwoman Bailey. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Now to the call center.
Now to the call center. And I'll just give a quick summary before I read this into the record. This item is for our call center operations for the handling of our power outage and customer service calls. Since 2017, ENCO has been handling all calls, business hours, and off hours 24/7. September 2020, they advised us that they were exercising their right to terminate because they could no longer afford to provide the service at the same rate. We put an RFP out with 2 alternatives, and the first alternative A was for after-hour calls, and alternative B was for business hour calls. And included in this RFP, to your point, Mayor, were performance standards such as you have to answer the call within 85% of the calls have to be answered within 30 seconds. And we've had complaints of inordinate delays of late. So INCO ranked first on both. That's our current company. But for A, we are asking for authority to negotiate and enter into an agreement with INCO for the after-hours portion of this. And for B, which is the business portion, we're asking for authority to negotiate with INCO at first, and if we can't come to a deal with them, the reasonable price, to go to the second-ranked proposer. So staff recommends that mayor and council authorize the city manager to award RFP 202107, Call Center Solutions Alternative A, Power Outage, Power Emergency Calls 24/7, and After-Hours Utility Calls to ENCO Utility Services, LLC, and negotiate and execute an agreement for services on an as-needed basis and within the established department budget. In addition, staff recommends that the mayor and council authorize the city manager to enter into negotiations with the top 2 ranked firms, ENCO Utility Services, LLC, and Magellan Solution USA, for the award of RFP 202107, Call Center Solutions Alternative B, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., customer services, and execute an agreement for services on an as-needed basis and within the established departmental budget.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council? Additional questions? Mr. Roth, Councilman Roth.
Thank you, Mayor. I could tell many stories, I guess, about the call center, and I probably won't, but I maybe somebody on staff can answer the question. When did we go from in-house customer service reps to a call center located elsewhere?
In 2017, that's when ENCO took over all of it, including the day-to-day in-house.
So prior to 2017, it was?
Our call center, city staff.
It was on city?
Yes.
And after-hours calls?
That was ENCO.
So they've done that part?
Since 2013, they did that part.
They've done that part. Because I'd kind of like to look at the possibility of us going back to live customer service here in the building or remotely as COVID warrants.
Yes, we have talked about that, Councilman, and if we cannot negotiate to have an acceptable agreement that meets all of the performance standards that we've included in the RFP, we could certainly consider that.
Yeah, and I'll share a real quick story that some of you witnessed today, but it's unacceptable that anyone in the city has to wait as long as I did today to get to a live operator when they called the city number. For 1 hour, I waited on hold. Made many stops along the way. And I said, I'm not going to turn this phone off until somebody answers the phone. And long and behold, an hour and 16 seconds later, somebody answered the telephone. To me, that's not acceptable. But, and whenever I call the customer service line, I never identify myself. I'm usually calling for somebody else anyways for figuring out a water problem or electrical problem or something. But it's almost embarrassing that I had to sit there for an hour knowing that others in the community are doing the same thing. So we need to address this as quickly as we possibly can, whether it be through approving a contract and making sure that they're providing our citizens with great customer service. You know, regardless of whether we're in contract or not in contract, they still are handling our phone calls and treating our citizens this way. It's unacceptable. And I don't usually rant like this, but I think the point has been made. I don't know if anybody else has gotten the phone calls that I've gotten, but when I made that call today, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. I had to wait 1 hour. So I'd like to look for some alternative solutions too, as quickly as possible, because tomorrow the same thing's happening to our citizens. Tomorrow they're calling that call center, and they're not getting responses. And that's just totally unacceptable. Thank you, Mayor.
We completely agree. And after knowing what happened to you today, we did follow up with them. Not that it's an excuse, because it's not. And they said 4 people called in sick. But without question, we agree 100%. There has to be quality service in a timely fashion. And that's what we're doing. And that's what we're going to figure out how to get done.
Absolutely. They are reflective of us. And they've got to act and sound like they are right here in this building. All right, so do we have a motion to approve the negotiation?
Sorry.
Yes,
I
I'm
was-
sorry.
One quick comment, Mayor, please. Actually, 3. I've called also for my school and for others, and luckily I've had really good luck because I receive calls or emails about bad service, but personally, I've had really good luck. And I remember having this conversation a few years ago, why we didn't have in-house customer service. And I remember one of the issues, which they made a really good point, I don't remember who I spoke with, but it has to do, what if we have a hurricane or a major disaster, that nobody in this area would be able to be helping on the call. So I thought that was interesting. My last suggestion is maybe we can make it part of our deal that there is some type of recording at the beginning, that if you're not satisfied with the service that you've received after this call, contact customer service at cityofhomestead.com, and maybe that's an email that you can look at and just keep tabs on names, and we can call them out.
Absolutely, we can absolutely do that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Very good thought. Thank you, Councilwoman. Council Shelley?
Yeah, so in the current contract that we have, do we have any penalties, such that I assume they're tracking the average hold time potentially of these people that are calling in, and so in the event that they're on hold for, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever we determine is a reasonable period of time, is there some sort of penalty clause where they're assessed some sort of a fine that comes off the contract, and if there's not, then is that something we can discuss with them as we're negotiating this current contract so that we have some teeth in it, so that in the event that they are providing bad service, we have some way of at least recouping some of the monies that we're paying to them for services that are not provided, but more importantly, hopefully it overly motivates them to be as courteous and as prompt as possible so that we don't have these issues in the future.
The current contract does not have penalties, but that is something definitely that we will consider with the negotiations, and that is a very good point.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely, Councilman. Appreciate it. All right. If we didn't do so, is there anyone here from the public wishing to speak on this matter or online? None appearing. Okay. I don't think we had did we have a motion for approval to negotiate?
Just one quick question, if you don't mind. This is only to negotiate. This is not to finalize the contract, and that will come back to us?
We can absolutely bring it back to you. And part of what we have talked about during negotiations was exactly what the councilman suggested, not only the price, but penalties for non-performance.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Councilwoman. All right, so it's moved by Councilwoman Bailey, seconded by Councilman Roth. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Next item, tab 24, resolution, car number 3071. Is that you, Madam Manager?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The Homestead Police Department applied for and has received a $9,000 grant from the Stanton Foundation for the purchase of one canine to replace a department canine that died due to injuries obtained while on duty. This grant requires no matching funds. Staff recommends that the mayor and council approve the attached resolution authorizing the city manager to accept a grant and establish a budget for a grant award of $9,000 from the Stanton Foundation for the purchase of one canine for the Homestead Police Department.
Why can't we have easy things like this at the front of the agenda?
We'll take that into account for next year.
I guess after the long nights of land use, we need these easy things later in the night.
This makes us feel better.
Okay. Is there anyone in person or online wishing to speak on this matter? Any questions or comments from council? Motion to approve.
Mr. Mayor, may I just quickly, I'm sorry, read the title into the record before we proceed? Thank you. This is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, accepting the grant of $9,000 for the specified purpose of procuring a replacement canine and related equipment for use by the Homestead Police Department, establishing a budget, providing for implementation, and providing for an effective date. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So we now have a motion and a second for approval. Any further from council? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Next item, tab 25, item number 3078. Is that you, Mr. Pearl?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Tab 25 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving the settlement of all claims made by ELVIS ACKERMAN, providing for implementation, providing for an effective date. The genesis of this resolution is the settlement of claims. We've had executive sessions on this lawsuit. It was a discrimination claim based on an officer's service and reserve military duty. We received a very favorable settlement where the settlement will be paid to his, will pay a portion of his attorney's fees and some of the costs associated with the arbitration and mediation, and the officer will agree not to apply for any future promotions, so we avoid having this problem in the future. And so we recommended the approval of this settlement.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council? Anyone from the public? Do you need to read a title? Did you read it?
I did, yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All right. We have a motion for approval. Councilwoman Avila, seconded by Councilwoman Bailey. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Okay. That takes us to, next item is public comments. It's time. The moment you've been waiting for. Those of you in the audience, you want to make a public comment, please come to the podium and give us your name and address for the record.
Hello,
Hello, my name is Nancy Font.
Get a little closer to the microphone. Yeah.
My name is Nancy Font. I live at 182 Northwest 16th Street, Homestead, Florida, 33030. Dear Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Council members, I am a citizen of Homestead and registered voter. I am here before you today on behalf of my family and many of my neighbors, which are also registered voters of the City of Homestead. We really need your help in eliminating a homestead code allowing a homestead resident to burn in their place of residence using a fire pit and/or barbecue pit. Too many people in Homestead are using the excuse of using a fire pit and/or barbecue pit to burn their bulk garbage. Chopped up trees, palm fronds, coconuts, raked up yard debris, and shipping pallets. We have also seen a neighbor using a 55-gallon steel barrel to burn garbage from his yard, and also landscapers dumping garbage on the ground and setting it on fire with a gasoline canister in their yard. Code enforcement has been contacted numerous times, not only by my family, but by other neighbors that are also fed up with all the burning. This, unfortunately, has not stopped neighbors from burning. The burnings are in the afternoon and late at night. Regrettably, it's when code enforcement is off duty. Unfortunately, when code enforcement goes out to the burn site, there is no evidence for them to see, only my pictures and videos, which they say it's hearsay. When neighbors burn, we are not smelling a wonderful aroma of barbecue in the air, but a noxious, overwhelming smell of burning wood and toxic chemicals with gray and black smoke all over the neighborhood. I am a severe asthmatic. I was in the hospital for 3 days in an induced coma because of my lung failure. Many of my neighbors are also suffering with health issues because of all the burning. My house is my sanctuary. This is a place where I need to feel safe and where I need to be in a clean environment and not breathe in pollutants that can cause my death. What neighbors are burning are extremely harmful, and my family and many of my neighbors' health. What we all want is the burning to stop. The City of Homestead needs a special task force department open 24/7 to the public, attending only to resident burning. When there's a complaint, what needs to be looked at is, are they using toxic wood for burning? Are they using gasoline as an accelerant? Do you see garbage piles, plastic potting containers, or any type of debris on the ground near the fire pit? How high are the flames? And so very important to test the air quality for harmful particulate matter, which causes burning eyes, runny nose, illnesses such as bronchitis. These fine particles can trigger asthma attacks, heart attacks, strokes, irregular heart rhythms, heart failure, and cancer. The EPA suggests using a natural gas fire pit and/or barbecue pit. This significantly reduces the health and environmental hazards while still enjoying a backyard fire feature.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe you've circulated to all of council a petition with several signatures to address this. And in your petition, you're asking us to eliminate all outdoor wood fires. Is that correct?
If possible, or I would even consider just wood that is allowable and will not harm the human health. Because there are woods that you can burn that doesn't allow so much particulate matter into the air, which doesn't cause people with asthma conditions, bronchial issues to suffer. I shouldn't have to go inside my house every time I smell smoke, and this is a continuous thing in my neighborhood.
Okay, and Mike, just coincidentally, and you probably know, yesterday afternoon after you circulated the email, I happened to run into your husband in the neighborhood, and he explained to me that the biggest part of the problem was someone who was effectively conducting a commercial smoking venture for a food truck or off-site barbecue in his yard in a residential area. And I think clearly that's not permitted. And I think that's the real issue here, as well as, I'd be pretty certain we have provisions in our code that you're not supposed to burn garbage. And what I'd like you to do is speak with the manager and get coordinated, and let's take a look at some of the code enforcement issues you have and get you a contact person so that when these things are happening, our people can be there and do what they can do at that moment, rather than coming after the fact, make this a code enforcement issue rather than a wiping out of, of all outdoor use of burning wood that would, typically be, acceptable to most people. And I understand that, some people are very sensitive to that. So I would suggest, let's go to the angle, and if you could get with the city manager, we'll probably be finished with our meeting in just a few minutes, and she can help you, and we'll establish a direct line, so that the wrongdoers that are creating this noxious situation, can be held accountable, and hopefully we can tamp down on those inappropriate, activities.
Thank you. I really
And then
appreciate your
we'll
help.
go
sir.
from there.
Thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate your help.
Thank you,
Thank
appreciate it. Thanks for coming out tonight and bearing with us and sitting through this entire meeting. All right, are there any further public comments? Sure, come on down and give us your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Ernesto Font, and I live in 182 Northwest 16th Street in Homestead, and I'm Nancy's husband. My main concern is that this has been going on for 6 years, and I have contacted code enforcement several times, and it seems to me that they're not really enforcing the law, okay? I have videos, and I've showed them to them, like you explained before, and basically they say it's hearsay. And the main reason that I'm here and I started collecting all these signatures that I have here, and I got more to collect, is because there's a child that lives right behind a gentleman that's doing the burning, and he had to go to the hospital, and he's only 2 years old. Okay, and this gentleman, I have contacted him directly, and I've told him that he needs to stop. And he sends me a text because I share my number with him. He sends me a text and he's telling me that he's not going to stop burning because he's allowed to do it. And he's the one that is burning pallets and is burning nursery pots. He has a business in Homestead. I mean, I think it's, no, it's not on the Redlands. It's down the Key Largo, I think it is. And he brings those pallets and he breaks them up. I can drive around my neighborhood and I know who's putting their garbage out, okay? And I've taken my time, okay, which I shouldn't have, driving at night with a flashlight and lighting up to the air to see where the smoke is coming from. When somebody barbecues, it smells good, okay? When somebody burns wood or whatever, especially treated wood, that's very dangerous. I'm here for the sake of everybody, because we need to have a healthy environment where we live.
Well, yeah, as I said to your wife, I'm sorry, it's been going on for 6 years. This is the first time, as far as I know, this has come to the attention of the mayor and council.
No.
The city manager's heard you, and
I understand. The other reason is I went around my block because I met all these neighbors. And all these neighbors, they thought that this burning that they're experiencing almost every other night was coming from the Everglades. They thought that it was a fire. And that's why they couldn't detect where it's coming. I said, hey, listen, it's coming from around your neighborhood. I mean, there's several people. I have addresses. I've called the fire truck several times. I've given the addresses to code enforcement, and nothing gets done. How many people are going to have to die? Am I going to lose my wife 5 years from now because she develops lung cancer, or she's going to lose me? Because all this smoke inhalation, it makes your arteries very shrink, and then you can either have a stroke or a heart attack. You can have lung cancer. You can have brain cancer. It's a lot of consequences, and people need to be aware of it. And that's what I need to say. I want something done, and that's why I came here tonight, and I took my time.
no, you've accomplished that. We're going to help do something.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anyone else in the audience or online? Do we have someone online? Okay.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. First, we have Andrika.
Go ahead.
Hey, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I was just wondering when the residents will be able to see the body cam policies, and also which the individuals that will be in charge of keeping up with the body cam footage and the redactions as well. When will we be able to see that? That's it.
Thank you. Are we still on track for a January 1 rollout?
Yes, sir, we are. We're on track for the first week in January to start to see officers on the street with body cameras.
And of course, we did, it's my recollection when we approved it, if not the details, council did want to at least see some bullet points or the high points of policy and who was supposed to wear and when and,
yes,
and how
Mayor,
they would be dealt with. And I would appreciate, being privy to that.
The policy.
At least a summary.
Absolutely. The policies with the city attorney at this point, it'll be approved shortly, and we will absolutely do that.
All right, thank you. Councilman Shelley?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just to follow up on what the mayor had to say, and that is, I think for me, one of my critical concerns always with body cameras has actually been more or less the use of it by the government body itself. And so I do want to make sure that I've seen the policy, that I have an understanding of when the cameras are on, when they're off, how they can use the material, how they store it, how they safekeep it. All that's is really critical to me as far as a critical component of the camera system. So, I would like to be able to see that before they're, walking around the street with the cameras on, not knowing exactly how that footage might be used or not used. So that is something I'm concerned about.
Okay, we can make sure that you do.
Thank you. All right. Do we have anyone else?
Yes. Next, we have Ram.
Hello, Mayor and Council. It's me again, Romero Horta, 2040 Southeast 19th Street. Just to follow up on the question of the body cams, it's come to the attention of some of the residents that the staff, they're very short staffed in the department that's going to handle the body cams. Was that addressed? And if so, how many staff members did we hire? And also, one more question. I do know Homestead PD is on the line. I just wanted to know, what are the repercussions for any cameras that are suddenly turned off or not on? Thank you.
Manager?
Mayor, I can speak to that. With regard to repercussions if the camera is turned off or on, once the policy is approved by the city attorney's office, that will be part of the policy, what the procedures are and what the consequences would be. With regard to the staffing, this part of the approval of the program, as you may recall, the council approved a sergeant and a detective, civilian personnel to be manning that. I'm not sure I understand the question about a shortage of personnel, but those are the personnel who will be assigned to the program.
Right. And that number of personnel that were hired were those recommended as sufficient to run the system and maintain it.
Yeah, the police department is responsible for putting people into those positions, and they interviewed people, existing staff on the police department who were interested in those positions, and were making the appointments from those applications.
Thank you. Anything further, Mr. Orta? Do we have anyone else?
No, we're good.
Next, we have Monica Moreno.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Monica Moreno. I live at 1201 North Liberty, apartment number A. I tuned in a little bit late after the meeting started today, and I just wanted to address some comments that I heard. For the vote for the single-family residential homes by D.R. Horton, upon listening in, Mr. Ross was strongly supportive of the approval for these homes. My question to him is, weren't these the same developers, the ones that funded your campaign that you're pushing so hard for today? Additionally, is that now you're seeing traffic issues. there has been much progress, although it's not completely done. During your campaign, when traffic studies were brought up, you voiced to the community that you didn't see any traffic issues. I'm one of those individuals that wake up every morning at 4:15 to drive to Coral Gables. Personally, I've spoken to many community members on this side of town for a little bit over a year. Traffic is a major issue. And even though that we're going through this pandemic and the traffic is a little bit not so much as what it was, it's still an issue. Many community members also expressed their decision to move to Homestead upon retiring because it was the only little bit of green space that was left. As far as the customer service issues go, just a suggestion is that in order to keep residents' needs a priority, why can't the city update their websites and just be truthful and forefront with the issues if there's staffing that's out? And maybe having some kind of rotation where city workers could answer these lines, and maybe there can be some kind of scripts made, emails sent, and address their needs so that they can know that their concerns are being addressed. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
That'll be all, Mr. Mayor.
Is that it?
Was it?
All right, thank you. All right, we'll close the public comment section of our agenda. Any further business from the city manager?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm grateful tonight to be able to let the council know that all of the CARES funding that we applied for that is being processed through the county is going to be coming to the city. And this is significant because in order for that to happen, we had to ensure that of all the 17 projects that we had approved, the money that we were asking for those projects was going to be spent by December 30th. And this necessitated closely monitoring everything, seeing how much money would be spent, predicting how much money would be spent. I cannot say enough about our finance department and how they have watched this and handled this. But the bottom line is, after we've moved money from some projects into other projects, meeting the county's deadlines, all of our funds will be coming to the city. And one of the major reasons we were successful in this regard is because of the aggressive marketing campaign we had to let people know what projects were out there to help people. And most significantly was the housing assistant notice that went out just online and also a direct mailing. The only thing bad about that was that we got so many applications, we can't help everyone. The county was very impressed with how successful we were, but we had well over 600 applications within the last couple of weeks. So we will be able to help many, but we won't be able to help all. We do hope after the CARES funding, there'll be some CDBG money, maybe next year, that we'll be able to continue some of these programs, but I am very grateful to be able to tell you that money will be coming to help people in our city. And we also had some, just real quickly, some of the other programs we had was the meal program and the food card for families in need. And we put the food card program on Facebook and had to shut it down, close it down within 4 hours. We received so many applications. And today was actually the first day that we started to give out the food cards. And we gave out close to 200 cards, but many more families showed up. And unfortunately, many of them had to be turned away because they don't live in Homestead. The next distribution is next week. We want to be more careful with vetting people before they show up because it's so sad to just have to turn people away, but we couldn't give the cards to people who didn't live in Homestead. So a couple of the other programs that we've been successful in, through the CRA program for the utilities assistance, about $20,000, and the HELP program that you approved that Mujer distributes about $22,000 for assistance. So again, much of the process has shown us how much need there is out there in our community. We're going to continue to find money wherever we can, continue to try to keep these projects moving. And I mean, obviously, it's been a very difficult year for lots and lots of reasons, but I'm confident that, we will continue working together as a city to get things done. And I just want to take a moment to thank our staff for all that they do, and thank you, Mayor, and his council for your leadership. And as we celebrate Christmas and Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and this holiday season, I just wish everybody the best and blessings in the new year. That's it, Mayor.
Thank you. Anything from the city attorneys?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I have to request a couple of executive sessions, one in the matter of United States of America v. John Alger et al., case number 2020-02643, and the other in case United States of America versus City of Homestead, case number 2020-000285-AP01.
Thank you. We'll make it happen when the time is right. Appreciate it. Councilman Shelley?
Just quickly, I guess, to wish everybody a upcoming Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. Obviously, this has been an unprecedented year for all of us, and hopes that next year is a better year. But I will say that, as unprecedented as it was, the staff has stepped up and really responded well. Us as council members and the mayor, have worked together to, try to do what's best for our communities and provide them the services they need. And so I want to commend all of the hard work of all of you up here and staff, on helping our residents kind of get through what has been, a really trying time for a lot of people, a very stressful time. And as you talked about, financial assistance that's being provided through various CARES programs. So I just want to commend all of us and wish you all, happy holidays and hope that next year is a much better year and we can get back to more of a normal form of governance. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Fletcher, have you joined us by any chance? Councilwoman Bailey.
Thank you, Mayor. I definitely want to echo all of that. Thank you to staff and my colleagues. I am really grateful that we were able to offer all the food distributions and toys, and I'm just really trying to hear the needs of the community and address them as best as we could. A quick thank you to all of the programs that helped us get Art Walk Homestead kits out. We had 6 or 7 organizations help us hand out 196 of our 200 kits. That was our goal. There's so many organizations to list, but they are all on my Facebook page. Kiwanis even sent Santa over to visit us. It was really cool. A quick shout out to Main Street for kicking off the holidays with their holiday drive-by. That was also really nice. And a last thank you to staff for our city employee holiday drive-through. It's really hard to plan these strange virtual drive-through things, but it is so worth it and very much needed. Thank you. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to everyone. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Avila?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to just take a few minutes to congratulate Homestead Main Street and all of its collaborators and participants for an unforgettable holiday parade. Also, congrats to both Councilwoman Bailey for her virtual art walk. It was beautiful online. Happy to participate. For Councilman Roth for the awesome events with Shop with a Cop. And for this is for the Kids Inc. Thank you for leading that organization. Another special thanks to all of the local nonprofits and organizations that are continuing their efforts to serve the community on the weekly food distributions. It's so important, as City Manager mentioned, the need is real out there. Also for the children's gifts donations to help the parents out. There's a lot of opportunity still to get some assistance if you need it. Specifically for food for children over the holiday break, the children who are depending on the school lunches for meals, please reach out to Nancy Garcia with the Homestead Outreach Team if you're in need for food for your children at 786-486-1111. The website will be up tomorrow as well, and their social media site has information, Homestead Outreach Team. And a final thank you for council for the privilege to sit up here with you. It's been a pleasure and a privilege, and for staff for your support. Thank you. It's been an incredible year. I could have never imagined a year like this with COVID and all the happenings. So with all the holidays coming, I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And for all of the families who might be struggling out there, I want you to know that there is a new mental health hotline that's put up through Mujer, which is a nonprofit community-based social service organization. They're going to provide short-term therapy services and referrals for long-term therapy services depending on the situation. And you can reach out to them as well through their website, Mujer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Appreciate it. Councilman Roth?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, what a crazy year 2020 was. I'm glad to see us leaving us. You know, it changed a lot of us this year. We've done some things that we probably wouldn't have done normally. And I know I've done a lot of different things this year than I would have done normally. I know our staff has done it. I know Mayor and Council, we've done it. You know, virtual meetings and not being able to see each other. And I'm just looking forward to 2021, and I certainly hope it's far better than what 2020 was. I'm the positive kind of guy. 2020 was a good year. It taught us, I think, a lot about ourselves, what we can do together, whether it be within your own family, your neighborhood, your community, your coworkers. We've all been challenged this year, and I think that 2021 is going to be a totally different thing for us. We're getting used to these crazy masks, and now the vaccine's coming out, and hopefully people will take that and protect themselves. I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, and thank you for everything you guys have done, Kate, staff, Joe, Barbara sitting back there. I think Zach's over there somewhere. This glass kind of makes y'all look like aliens because it's like kind of makes it look weird out there, but and enjoy your holidays and always be kind to others out there. It's going to get crazy shopping and all that stuff, and just be kind to everyone. And if you get an opportunity to live somebody else's life, please do so as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Roth. Appreciate it. Vice Mayor Fairclough Staggers.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to echo the sentiments that was communicated and conveyed by Mayor and Mayor Shelley relative to having the opportunity to view the standard operating procedures for the body cameras, the body camera implementation. I think we had some healthy discussion about the ability to be able to preview that information. So if you can definitely forward that to us, Kate, I greatly appreciate it because I'm very interested in seeing what the implementation will look like once it launches. The inception of it launches on January 1st or the first week in January. So thank you for that. And my colleagues' hard work and sweat equity, literally and figuratively, and in creating ways to be able to bring body cameras to our community. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Additionally, I'd like to thank the city manager and staff and the community for helping to lift our community past this pandemic. It has been extremely hard on so many, the financial insecurity, the food insecurity, but as a community, we've coalesced together to help support and, as Councilman Rod said, to lift our community up. Yes, it has been indeed challenging, but I feel as if we have so much to be grateful for. We have life, we have health, we have family, we have community. And I think that is a silver lining out of all of this. I know all of us are looking forward to 2021, but I'm not completely dismissing 2020 because I think there was a lot of lessons learned throughout this year. And I'm grateful to be able to work alongside all of you to lean into this work to support our communities. So happy Hanukkah, Noche Buena, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, and I pray that all of your families enjoy this holiday season. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And, that's the burden of going last. What more can I add to what all of you have said? I want to echo that. And as we just reflect upon the year of where we've been and how we're going to be stronger going forward and so much work to do and a realization of the need in our community. And I appreciate the efforts of all of our staff from wherever they're working from and and all of you and all of us who have done so much to adapt and move forward. And my word is this has been a year of distractions, and I hope that we can, in the coming year, hopefully with the vaccine working and being safe and allowing us to get back to some semblance of what we once had, that we can again focus on what's always been important, and what this past year has shown us is important as well. All right, my formal item tonight was I wanted to bring forward and just have some discussion and make sure that we were all on board with going forward. And let me give you a little background. Probably before the pandemic, I noticed one day, and the agenda calls it an F-16. It's not. It's an F-4 Phantom that's on the west side of US 1, south of 15th Street. The landscaping seems to have swallowed it. It's very, doesn't stand out. It doesn't necessarily catch your attention. And it's not really situated where visitors could stop and look at it, take pictures, read whatever history is underneath it. It's just kind of a fast drive-by. Later on during the pandemic, we had issues with homeless encampments beneath it. And I kind of put in the back of my mind that, we need to do something about that as an icon of our community. A few weeks ago at the groundbreaking for Lostner Park, I was at the edge of a conversation where one of our colleagues mentioned that, it's too bad there wasn't, she had even checked into, and there just wasn't room for the jet to go in the park. And I started thinking at that moment, well, where would it work? What could we potentially do? And from that point, I engaged the Chamber of Commerce, the two military affairs organizations, talked to the city manager, and the point of bringing this forward, and we've already made contact preliminarily with the 482nd out at the base. And I guess what I'd like to know is whether or not we've got some consensus for our staff to spend, at this point, the time and effort to go through the process to bring all the parties together and potentially relocate that jet to the point of City Hall Plaza out here at the intersection of Washington Avenue and Civic Court as a community icon, as something that's more accessible for visitors and residents alike to get close up and personal, to be photographed, for visitors to take photographs in front of. And there are a lot of moving parts and pieces to this. The preliminary indications from all of the interested parties is that it's a go, that we don't really see an impediment to that happening. But I wanted to have some discussion or buy-in from council that it's okay for staff to dedicate some time and effort in better gelling that potential move. Now, granted, that move may not be until the first quarter of 2022. The jet was slated to be taken down and repainted. It is still the property of the United States Air Force, and as such, they require that it be painted in their paint shops to their standards as if it were still a flying piece of machinery. And due to the lockdown, I recently learned that it may be as far out as the first part of 2022, but knowing how government and the military works, it'll probably take us that long to get everything coordinated. So that's the discussion I wanted to have among council tonight on this item. Councilman Shelley?
I'll kick it off. Hearing it first time tonight, obviously I'm trying to process it and think through things. I don't know that I envision maybe the City Hall location, at least sitting here, is maybe where I would envision that going. But I think it would be great to put it in a more prominent place. I don't know where that is, whether it's at that location or some other. I would like to have maybe, I support having staff and all interested parties have some discussion and maybe look and try to identify multiple places, and then that gives us some options to have discussions in the future to see what makes sense as far as both from a, is the main entry point now people coming down US 1, or given the turnpike and all that's going on there, is it better to have it somewhere over in that part of town, so as people are coming in, they recognize the Air Force jet and therefore understand that we're an Air Force community. But I also like your idea, what you talk about of having it be an icon where people can actually maybe pose and take pictures. And so, that all needs to be considered. So I definitely support doing a study, or not a study, but analyzing where ultimately we can accomplish a lot of those things. I support that 100% to give it some more prominence. I'm just not sure that I envision it on the City Hall property per se. But I'm definitely open to seeing what else is out there or seeing what options exist.
Councilwoman Avila?
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's a great idea. Yes to everything, to all the recommendations. I'd like to see the other options. And I'd like to also see how we can expedite it. Maybe consider leaving that one on its timeline for early 2022 and engaging the Air Force Museum for another plane. We can do it sooner than later. I love the idea of having something like this in downtown, somewhere where we can get up and close and personal and picture perfect. I think it would be beautiful. Thank you, Mayor.
Good. Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you. Vice Mayor? Okay.
Hi, Mayor. Yes, I support this.
Thank you. So I'll take that as an indication that staff and I can go off on some, and I hate to use this term, some wild goose chases, and at Councilman Shelley's suggestion, perhaps, some other the parties may have some other ideas, and there may be a second piece of equipment. I think that we're a large enough city now that, kind of as a gateway icon, as well as a downtown icon, that may very well be available to us, and we can certainly look at that as well. Councilwoman?
Thank you, Mayor. One more thing. I just want to mention to my colleagues that according to my expert husband back there, it's an F4, not an F-16. So just for the record, thank you.
I know, I mentioned that, and that was my misnomer when it was put on the agenda.
I blame myself for that, Mayor. I learned also it was an F4. I wanted to say it first, but you did, so.
I wanted to cover my own mistake before I gave you the chance to do it. All right. Is there anything further? Do we have a motion to adjourn? Move adjournment second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you all.